I drove my rusty pickup to the local game store door. Starfield gleamed upon the shelf, couldn't wait no more. Todd Howard spun his stories of galaxies afar, but when I fired up that game, I didn't get too far. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your alibis. I fell for all your stories, like I always do. Starfield left me wishing for a game that's true. They boasted endless planets, each one unique and new. But after planet number 3, I'd seen a deja vu. The critics didn't love it, gave it mediocre scores. Just another space misfire echoed across the boards. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your alibis. I fell for all your stories, like I always do. Starfield left me wishing for a game that's true. I searched for epic battles, but the AI wouldn't fight. Characters were wooden, and the dialogue was trite. Todd promised me the cosmos, but left me in the dust. Now I'm trading in this game, it's betrayed my trust. Oh, Todd, you weaved a fable of worlds beyond compare, but all I got were glitches and load screens everywhere. Still somehow I'm considering when the next game's not, 'cause hope's a stubborn thing, and I'll give it one more try. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your alibis. I fell for all your stories, like I'll always do. Starfield left me wishing for a game that's true. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your alibis. I fell for all your stories, like I always do. Starfield left me wishing for a game that's true.
So you wanna make a Lego game using some big property, but you already did Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Lord of the Rings 16 Well, I think there's still one option that you've yet to explore. It's the series about a girl and her robotic dinosaurs. Now I know what you're all thinking, hey, isn't this a bit of a stretch? Horizon's fan base has been shrinking. It might be pretty, but there's always a catch. I've only met one person in my whole damn life who had an insatiable Horizon appetite. Everybody else doesn't care that much, but Herman Hulse doesn't really give a fuck. So here you go, world, it's Horizon again. If you got money, it's time to spend. It's got multiplayer, find a friend. Open up your mouth, girl, let me pour some Horizon in. It's sweet like honey, so give us all your money. Oh wait, oh fuck, no one's buying the game. I thought Horizon was as cool as Star Wars. I guess it turns out it's just kinda lame. Ooh, holy crap, oh no, why doesn't anybody care? Horizon is just as cool as all those other Lego games. Even though the evidence makes it seem like it's irrelevant, Lego Horizon flopped. I'm not sure why they bothered trying. All of its fans must have been lying. Lego Horizon flopped, Horizon. Guess Sony is gonna have to try again. Skeep-a-doop-bop-boop, geep-a-deep-a-doo-da, Robo-dino, skip-bop, skip-bop. deeper, 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 boo bop, going till the doo dot beep bop, banuta. Horizon should never had a Lego game. Whoever greenlit that must have been fucking insane. Let go Horizon flopped. I'm not sure why they bothered trying. All of its fans must have been lying. Let go Horizon flopped. Horizon. Guess Sony is gonna have to try again. Sorry Herman Hulst. Guess he didn't make a new Star Wars after all. Sorry Herman Hulst. Just another day of ya dropping the ball.
Welcome everybody. Welcome. I've missed you. I don't know if you've missed me, but I'm glad to be here, rocking and rolling. The hair's crazy today. I needed a haircut before this upcoming vacation, but my barber's booked out to like late January. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Go to a different barber? I did that once and they messed up my hair so bad. So bad. Man, it was real bad. So now I don't. They did like, I said, oh, I want it on like short on the sides, tapered up, and then I just want enough on the top to like mess with it. And they did this weird thing where they did a hard part and then they did like a one all the way up and they did not blend it. And it made me look like a door-to-door window salesman, you know, just have the wife cut it. I think we're getting there. She cuts the hair of our boys, except she will like once every couple months, she'll be like, okay, we need to start from scratch. And she'll take them to like a kid's barber, which has like the special whatever. I don't understand hair cutting, but then she'll have them kind of prep it and get it back to a baseline. Then she'll touch it up over the next few months. It's a good way to do it. It's a good way to do it. Tell you what. So, elephant in the room. Do we have any GTA fans? Any GTA 7 fans? In chat? Nope. Okay. Oh, well. Oops. Oh, well. What are you going to do? You might have noticed it's the 27th. So today is supposed to be the big day, and it looks like y'all got played. Today is not over yet, but it looks like this whole thing was part of a marketing push for a merch drop. Shocker. But we'll get to that. Little correction update thing. This was pointed out to me by one of you guys. MrBeast has rented out all 3 Egyptian pyramids for 100 hours for an upcoming video. I talked about this a bunch. I don't know if we ever did stream clips on it or anything, but we talked about it on stream because I'm a huge Egyptology nerd, and I've been frustrated at what the Supreme Council of Antiquities within Egypt have been doing, how it's all very pay to play, and they won't greenlight more research on certain sites if they don't like a given researcher or archaeologist, but they're willing to do deals like this. But there is a community note. Per Egypt's Ministry of Tourism, he filmed with a permit outside regular hours without exclusive access. The pyramids did stay open to visitors. That's nice. Cool. It's just outside regular hours. This is actually the same thing that guy I told you about, Zahi Hawass, does. Zahi Hawass. Yeah, this. Where is it? He runs these like discovery tours. Yeah, it sort of does it. But he runs these tours, and you can actually go pay him to basically take you to certain sites around Egypt, and they just take you there at like 7 a.m. before it opens to tourists at 9 a.m. or whatever. So you can go and not be swarmed with people, and it's still cooler in the day. So there's ways that you can, if you have enough money, you can bypass a lot of the sticky negative sides of tourism, but it still doesn't change the fact that I'm like, you're giving MrBeast access to the sites when, like, there's a French archaeologist who wants to do more research into one of the voids within the pyramids, but because he thinks it was built with an internal tunnel or an internal ramp system, where basically they built it with tunnels inside the pyramid as they were building it, to transport stones up instead of just one gigantic causeway. Because that goes against mainstream stuff, like they haven't invited him back or granted his permits to continue researching. Like the whole thing is just so screwy, but MrBeast, yeah, sure, come on, film. It's just like, what are you gonna do? That, and he is French. Yeah, you're right, Doom. I guess I'm missing the most important part of the equation. Yeah, I mean, Luke, you say all that, but like, he is French, so what are you gonna do? Can they just ban him like they did with Beyonce? Dude, Zahiwas is a prick. He is a prick. Okay, I've said it before, I'll say it again, but that thing he did with Beyonce, in case anybody doesn't know, Beyonce was banned from the pyramids because she went dressed up like this for some reason, and her photographer was being super, super rude. Like, I brought a photographer and she also had a photographer and a guard. When my photographer started to shoot, he said, "No, stop. I am the one who says yes or no, not you." I said, "In that case, since you almost hit my photographer and you're not polite, out. I'm not giving you the privilege of having you on my tour." I said Beyonce was stupid. And I left. Like, he don't give no craps, dude. Imagine anybody else on this planet be like, "No, Beyonce's stupid. Get out." Like, Zahi is on another level. I'll tell you what, he does not care. Because I mean, it's true. If you want to play, at least at this time back in 2013, he was still like head of the Supreme Council of Antiquity. If you wanted to go to any archaeological site in Egypt, you needed his go ahead. He had to give you the thumbs up. So it was very much like, suck up to him, otherwise you're out. He was booted out during the like rebellion, the Muslim Brotherhood rebellion, or whatever they called it. But then after that, he came back, but in a consultancy role, and now somebody else holds his own spot, but he's still very high up there. So there's a lot of weird drama with it. But anyway, yeah, that's the little correction, is that apparently it's just outside regular hours. I still think it kind of proves the point, but whatever. Yeah, I guess now we can talk about the elephant in the room as people come in. Let's do this. You ready? New segment. How are we doing? Are we okay? I think most of us are okay, but some of the guys that were like the most hardcore into the GTA 27th trailer 2 is dropping stuff. Some of those people I think are genuinely like probably not okay right now. Because a lot of people went hard. I mean, if you're not familiar somehow, very quick recap, just in case you are curious and you somehow missed it. For the last like week and a half, 2 weeks, really last month, it's been building, but really concentrated in the last week. There's been theories going out over the number 27, okay, saying that the number 27 has connections with Rockstar and therefore something might happen on the 27th. There's even in some instances ties to 12/27, so December 27th, insinuating something big might happen. There we go. Some of the examples of this would be, as you can see in this collection from Cyberboy, Cyberboy UK over on X. There's some individual instances. The GTA franchise is 27 years old. Rockstar has 27 posts on Instagram. This is something that will be referenced in just a second. Remember the 27 posts on Instagram thing. Rockstar was incorporated, New York City version of Rockstar specifically, was incorporated on 27th December 1998 when Sam Hauser was 27 years old. 1998 equals 27. Okay, 27 seconds into the first trailer, there's a car with the number 27 on it, which we checked is actually true. A bunch of stuff like that. Jason is the USA's 27th most popular name. So people pointed to all of these numbers, 27. Wow. And some of them were more convincing than others. Like this one I thought was actually kind of cool. Maybe like 8, the 8-4, and then the timestamp. If I add all those together, it's 1227. That's cool. That one, that's cool. The others, like Rockstar NYC, not even London, where like the game is mainly being made, but like Rockstar NYC was founded in 1998. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of a stretch, but okay. So a lot of people took these and ran with them. Yeah, GTA Vice City ID, title ID in the Rockstar launcher is 27. A lot of people took it and ran, but people started getting really excited that something was about to happen. Rockstar deleted a post early on Christmas Eve so that they would be stuck down at 27. So they didn't want to go back to 27. People started looking, oh, they said happy holidays. Rockstar tweeted out happy holidays. Whoa. If you look at the alphabetic to numerical translation, it is 93 minus 66, which equals 27. Ned Luke, if you don't know him, he played Michael in GTA 5. December 27th, 5 stars. Oh my God, it's happening. A lot of people were fully convinced. And like, here's the thing, to give credit to some of these guys. A lot of like the YouTubers and streamers and stuff that were talking this up were sort of hedging the bets and were like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of coincidences. Nothing is probably going to happen. I think they're probably trolling, or it's just us seeing patterns and shadows that aren't really there. But there are many thousands, if not millions of people that do honestly believe something is happening today or was going to happen today, and are like, they feel lied to after all of this. When in reality, like, human beings are really good at seeing patterns. That's why, like, we look at clouds and see animals in them. You know, we just, it's pareidolia. We just see patterns everywhere we look. It's something we're really good at. And when we start looking for patterns to fulfill like a preconceived notion, we start to find them everywhere. Like that Rockstar Games was founded in this year on this date, and one of the founders was this many years old when that happened. And, you know, all of these things start to combine, and it's like, it's cool, but it doesn't necessarily tell you anything, you know? It's just a cool little number. This morning, very first thing that happened was Rockstar went and they deleted a post. Oh, thank you. Rockstar went and deleted a post on their Instagram to get down to 26 posts. People are like, oh God, here it comes. And they prepped it. And guess what? This week is your last chance to save during the Rockstar Store holiday sale. Same thing was posted to their Instagram. Like, after all of this, it seems they were building up to a holiday sale for 20% off Red Dead for PC, 50% off for GTA 5, 75% off GTA 4, 30% off all Rockstar Games apparel and collectibles. It was a little funny. Granted, I know some people are going to be screaming. They're like, Luke, the day is young. The day is young. They might still do something. And that's true. They might still do something. The GTA 6 original trailer launched at like, I'm trying to think when it was. I think I saw it at like 5 or 6 p.m. I was, my son, Orion, he was in the hospital the day that it dropped. He had RSV, and so his blood oxygen levels were tanking. And so we were actually in the hospital. And I was just like holding him while my phone just starts bzz, 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 bzz. I was like, what is going on? I thought somebody was calling to check on my son. Nope, they were calling and texting to tell me that the GTA 6 trailer dropped. He's okay, to be fair. To be clear, he's a little rock star. I had RSV a bunch when I was a baby. So it's unfortunately just something he's predisposed to, but he's okay. Hasn't had any problems like that this year. It was just last December he got hit really hard with all of that, but everything is okay now. Having said all of that stuff, I think there's always sort of whenever something like this happens in the games industry and really in media in general, there's a convenient ignorance of one of the options, because people generally try to whittle things down into the most like black and white option possible, where people say, okay, it is either that Rockstar is signaling with the number 27. This has been building. This is numerological. This is crazy. You know, they're going big brain, 200 IQ moves to signal to us that the next trailer is dropping on the 27th and it's going to blow our minds. There's that option. Or the other option is that it is nothing but coincidences. There is nothing happening. You are all psychotic and seeing things that aren't there. You've all lost your minds and you're all crazy. And if you think that there's anything to this, you're crazy. And people look at those two options and they say, it's just so many coincidences. I don't think it can be that. I don't think it's all just coincidences. So maybe this is the actual option, because if that's my two options, I don't think it's this. So it's got to be this. But they ignore the fact that there might be something in the middle that's another option, which I think is much more likely, which is that Rockstar is aware of all the 1227 stuff. How could they not be at this point? And maybe some of the coincidences, they're like, okay, that's actually kind of funny. That's actually kind of cool. Like the timestamp in the video, that's cool. Or in the first trailer, there being a 27 on the trailer, which I didn't believe when I first saw it, but like no joke. GTA 6 trailer. I can't type. I didn't believe this when we looked at it, but no, if you go 27 seconds into the first trailer, right here, you can see 27. Granted, it's also at 28 seconds, so that could also apply, but there is a car with the number 27 on it at 27 seconds into the trailer. That's a funny coincidence. I think Rockstar probably saw all this stuff and was like, oh, that's kind of cool. What if we just like ham it up a little bit? What if we just do a little trolling? And so there's an option between they know all of it, they're intentional, this is coded messaging, it's the Illuminati and everything is real. And this is all fake, you're all psychotic. There's an option between, which is that they're aware of it and maybe they ham it up in a couple little instances, like telling Ned Luke to maybe, yeah, you can tease them a little bit about it. Yeah, that's fine. Or other things where they post this and they know people are going to do the alphabet numbering thing, and maybe they post a picture that looks like a 27 if you squint your eyes a little bit, stuff like that, just to ham it up. And they refuse to shut it down because, again, they could have come out and been like, there is no trailer coming this year. We'll see you next year. They could have done that, but why would they? GTA 6 somehow at the end of this year is all like anybody is really talking about, despite them literally doing nothing. Like, they have literally done nothing. And yet they've just let the line out as people started to freak out. The cat's out of the bag photos were crazy though. The ultimate bait. I own two cats, Finley and Hermione. They're wonderful. And when we looked at those pictures, I was like, guys, cats jump in and out of bags. They do that. And if you take a picture of your cat and there is a paper bag out, there's a good chance that there will be a cat in that bag very shortly after. You know, I did not look at those pictures and immediately think, oh God, they're signaling to us. Like, that's the type of stuff where I think people were just so hungry for something. They were looking for it. They were seeing shadows and everything. And when we look at other stuff, like for example, that Ned Luke stuff I mentioned, that 27th 5-star thing he said, It's because he was preparing to reveal that he was an ROG brand partner, which I honestly, that's great. I love ROG. I love my ROG ally. I don't know what this even means, but I don't know what it means to be a brand partner for ROG ally, but he apparently is one now. But this is what he was teasing for the 27th. And for ROG was probably like, hell yeah, ham it up. Everybody's going to be watching your Twitter page on the 27th. So yeah, please ham it up. You know, and that's why there's an option between, which is that this started as just coincidences and people seeing patterns and stuff that weren't really there, or the patterns were there, but like it wasn't intentionally placed. And then these companies were like, hey, let's just make the most of this. Easy. Easy. You know, and Hidden Ones on X posted this. I kind of feel bad for GTA creators on YouTube. To think they'd have to wait 2 whole years is crazy. What more could they do with GTA 5 content that hasn't been done? There's a major issue people might not realize, burnout. I think this just comes with the territory of making your channel about a singular game, not even like a franchise, which some of them are the franchise, but at least with Hidden Ones being an AC focused channel with like Ubisoft stuff, there's a lot to talk about. Like they pump out a lot of AC content for better or worse. There's a lot to talk about. For GTA, if you make a GTA channel, you know you're talking a decade at least between all of them. You know what you're getting into. And I think that is kind of where this comes from. There is a void of actual content to discuss. And so all these people just start throwing crap in there to try to fill it up. Because like, okay, well, there's nothing really to talk about. Let's just start looking for stuff. And a lot of people start to kind of make stuff up, or a lot of people start to fill in the blanks. You're even seeing it now with like the PlayStation side of things. I don't know if you guys saw the fake leaks of Wolverine footage. I don't know if I even bookmarked it because it was very, very fake. But people were sending me like links to this leaked Wolverine gameplay from the Insomniac game. And it was like the fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was just like a reworked mod using a Call of Duty map. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was really, really bad. But people were eating it up, and it had like 5,000 likes on X or something. And it was being spread like crazy because people just were looking for something to talk about, you know? And I think this is why it's the responsibility of the creators to not just fill in the void for easy content or clicks, because ultimately it's going to damage your own brand. There's going to be a lot of people unsubscribing from those YouTube channels, from those X accounts and stuff today, when they realize that there was nothing there. It's not necessarily some of these guys' fault. They were just putting together the theories and sharing that. They weren't endorsing them, but they're going to be lumped in with it now because that's just what happens. Like, look at this. GTA 6 is trending as some fans have convinced themselves that Rockstar released trailer 2 today. Michael's actor from GTA 5 is getting in on the fun too. They share that post. But as you can see, Ned Luke, he clarified, my post has nothing to do with Rockstar or GTA 6. Y'all stop listening to these so-called self-proclaimed insiders. I mean, I think, I know he does the 5-star thing as like a nod to GTA 5 and that role that most people know him for. I get he does that, but a lot of people see this and infer from that it's GTA related when it's just not. So that one I can understand some people misunderstanding. They don't realize that's his like sign off at this point, but still, yeah. Yeah, I think with he's trolling most likely. I mean, there's a little bit of that. But again, like for ROG, if they're doing this big partnership reveal, why would they not be like, hey, just let's put the announcement on the 27th. They could have said, we're going to do the announcement on the 28th or on the 1st or the 2nd. Like, I don't think it's that crushing of a thing where like they need to do it today. But they chose to do it on the 27th because they knew everybody's eyes would be on everybody even slightly related or close to Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, a lot of content to talk about AC, and then you have YouTuber Blackwoods always making stuff up and selling footage. Blackwoods has to be careful because I've heard from some people that would definitely know that he is playing with fire, and that's all I will say there. But anyway, this whole thing has just been a total crazy wild ride. And maybe, you know, the day is not over yet. Maybe we are going to be talking later in the stream. They drop a trailer out of nowhere and it's going to blow us all away. Maybe that's what happens. But I think it's most likely that all of this was just a fun little way of trolling everybody to promote a merch sale on the Rockstar store. I think that that's the most likely option. Maybe at 2:07, maybe, or maybe it's going to be at 12:27. Oh my God. It's all coming together, man. But then you got to pick which time zone we're looking at. The whole thing is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. The whole thing's crazy. But I think what it does show is just, again, the power of GTA 5 as a brand, the hunger people have for content about it. And it's what the dangerous thing about hype is that people love talking about this one thing so much that they need to talk about it even when there's nothing to really talk about. So they fill in the void with nonsense. And some, you know, grifter types will just make stuff up or will ham stuff up that isn't really connected. Like there's people that will conveniently not mention that Ned Luke was clearly doing like an ROG ally or an ROG brand representative partner, whatever reveal. They're going to ignore that and just be like, see, he signaled that it was going to happen. When if you thought about it for 2 seconds, it probably is something else. And that's why you should be skeptical. That's why you should withhold your judgment on this crazy stuff until it is justified. Yeah, hype can damage your thinking. Hype puts blinders on, and that's why I have that t-shirt in my merch store. Hype makes you stupid because it conditions your brain to ignore the downsides and only focus on the stuff that affirms your biases and your priors, you know? And that's the dangerous thing. That's the big problem. But who knows? Maybe we'll get the trailer later today. But I don't think we will. But maybe. But probably not. But maybe. All day, you better believe people are going to be refreshing. People are going to be checking and checking and checking because they just... I think people are bored. But this is the other piece that somebody brought up to me on stream like a few weeks ago that I hadn't really processed. They were like, a lot of the current gaming discourse, like the rage over maybe AC Shadows or Concord or whatever, a lot of that is because there's not really anything else to talk about. So it again fills the void because we're going to talk about games. We just fill the void with whatever games are out around that time. And they were like, for next year, it's going to be really interesting to see how this discourse changes or worsens or whatever based on the sheer volume of games that will be out. There will be so many AAA games. It will blow your socks off. I really think, like, if you just look at February, for example, if there are channels that want to just make 15 videos bashing AC Shadows, they're going to get flooded out by videos on Monster Hunter, previews for Monster Hunter Wilds, for Avowed reviews and previews, for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 footage, Civ 7 footage. Like, all of this stuff is about to change because it's going to be so freaking stacked. And even now, we don't know some of the other kind of holes in the schedule. There's not really anything for March. There's not really anything for May. April is super empty, and I think that's because Nintendo is going to sweep in there, and everybody on the big publisher side, I think they all know that. I think behind the scenes, some of these big publishers have gotten like the dev kits and they've been working on ports of their games for the Switch 2. And so I think they know, oh, you're launching this March 7th. Okay. We will steer clear. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think up through the end of February, everything is going to be just a mad dash of just AAA releases, everybody getting their stuff in before the fiscal year ends. And then I think Nintendo will take over. I think Nintendo's fiscal year, hold on. Nintendo fiscal year. The reason this is important is because fiscal years, usually they want to start strong and end strong. Yeah, it runs from April to March. But I think, when did the Switch? I thought it was like March something. Yeah, March 3rd. Finish out the year strong. But then they might have had accounts receivable come in April. It depends on what accounting methods they use. But either way, we could see this launch whenever. But I think it's possible we get the Switch 2 in March, and then April and May will just be Switch stuff. So we'll see. Good luck finding a way to end that clip, Jacob. I'm sorry. I realize the end of that GTA 6 thing didn't really end cleanly, but here we are. Here we are. Oh, well, that's why you get paid the big bucks, right? That's why you get paid the big bucks. Y'all, should I buy a 49 or wait for the next series of cards to come out? Lovesick, you should absolutely wait, because even like when they revealed the 50 series, every sucker like me who's going to buy a 50 series will have a 40 series that they're selling at a discount. So just wait. Just wait. Because even if you don't want the 50 series, you'll still get the 40 series cheaper. So just wait. It's not like there's a lot of crazy games coming out in the next week or two that you need like graphics cards for. I think does anyone in chat know the rumored release date of the 50 series? I know they're probably showing it at CES in January, but I don't know if like when they expect the devices to actually launch. March 24, February 12/27. Get out of here. Yeah, if you want to use cards, sure. Yeah, Island Mama, to be fair, yeah, some people are not comfortable doing used graphics cards and stuff. In the age of like the modern age of gaming hardware, I think you're probably fine with it, especially if it's like a college student that just is upgrading. Make them test it before you take it. You know, definitely. Like the one time I went with a buddy to buy a used graphics card, he had it in his computer, actually ran like a benchmark to show it worked, and then took it out of the case for him. So have them do that, like prove that it actually works before you give them money for it. But beyond that, I think you're probably fine. Back like 5-6 years ago when they were using graphics cards for Bitcoin mining and stuff, that would really kill your hardware quick. But nowadays, I think you're probably fine. Is there a chance GTA 6 increases the price of games? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, before we move into the next segment, I'll just say this. The elephant in the room with GTA 6, and we've talked about this before, but I'll just run through it real quick. The problem for GTA 6 is that if the price point that is generally considered to be like acceptable is $70 or something, that's a standard that was created by Take-Two Interactive. It was the 2K, was it 2K20 21, 2K22? It was one of those that kickstarted that craze of everything being $70. So it was the parent company of Rockstar as well that made that move from 60 to 70. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to change it. But my personal theory, I don't think they're going to launch GTA 6 and be like, This is a true quadruple A game. Therefore, we're going from 70 for this. It's a new tier. So we're not changing $70 to something else. There's a new tier above 70 for quadruple A games. Watch out, Ubisoft. And we're going to charge 120 for it. They could do that. Not, like literally nothing is stopping them from doing that. They could do that and there's no like repercussions. And the real truth of the matter is that I think a lot of people would buy it, but I don't think that's what they're doing. I think what they do is they have the game that is $70 because it's a AAA game and they're like, booyah, that's what we're charging. But we have a deluxe edition. And this deluxe edition is 120. And it comes with 5-day early access. I think this makes it pop off. It will be such a crazy, crazy, huge launch. Millions upon millions upon millions of people will pay for this. Yeah, they could just wait for the $70 version 5 days later. That's the reasonable thing to do. But everybody they know, every streamer will be playing this version and the leaks will start coming like crazy. I think tons of people would buy this, even though you can still technically get it for the normal price of $70 for a AAA game. If you're willing to pony up some extra cash, then you could do that. They could even go as much as like 150 for this. I see some people saying in chat, they could easily do that. The other perk of this, which I think Rockstar cares about specifically, is digital versus physical. One of the problems with Rockstar games is that they are extremely popular. And one thing that happened, I remember back in 2018 with Red Dead Redemption 2, was that they sent out like the big boxes of physical copies of the game. If you've ever worked in retail, I worked at Best Buy like in this time period. And one of the things that happened was that they shipped out these massive boxes and they just had hundreds of copies of the game inside the box. And those were dated. The sticker would say, don't open until this date, or we had to put them on this shelf and not touch them. But what happened at places like Walmart or some Best Buys and Amazon warehouses and stuff is that just one guy grabs that, tucks it under his shirt, and sneaks off with it. And of course they have systems and protections, metal detectors, stuff like that. But occasionally somebody gets lucky and gets away with it. And they can go on eBay and sell that version of the game for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000. Some copies of games have sold for like $5,000 to $10,000 for a few days early access, which is wild, but that has happened before. Now, there are some easy solutions, which is to just have it require an online internet connection to unlock. A lot of games, most games nowadays do that, where even if you have the physical disc, you have to have an internet connection to activate it. But you still have to worry about like data miners and stuff like that, which is a thing that the GTA community is certainly capable of. So what is the perk of doing this for Rockstar? Well, it's 5-day early access, online only. Boobs. No. They can do that. If it's online, you can do for digital copies, early access for 5 days. And that means when this launches, after that, you ship out the physical copies. So if early access starts on the 1st for digital copies, you can send out on the 2nd the physical copies that will show up on the 5th. And then you don't have to worry about any of those leaks because people can already get the game. People already have paid for it. You just totally bypass that potential problem. Of course, there's still the problem of manufacturers leaking stuff, but that's at least easier to control than manufacturing and the shipments and protecting the retail side of things. It's much easier to just worry about the manufacturing and security side. So that's the other perk of doing it this way. So this is my personal theory for what they're going to do. I think it will be priced at 70, but I think they will have a $120 or $150 version that has online only for digital copies, early access, and everybody else that pays $70 or that buys a physical version will be getting it later. And using the power of FOMO, they will sell crazy numbers of copies, most of which I think are going to be at this higher price tier. I know some of you guys in chat are like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying early. I'm not doing it. Good for you. Good for you. But I will tell you, there are tens upon tens of millions of people that will save up extra to pay this price. There are a lot of people that will put in the extra work, like the extra shift at work, to get that money. There's a lot of people that will go and sell a few of their games so that they can afford that. There's people that will sell that second PlayStation controller they have so they can get the early access. It will be that big of a deal. If you're not a big GTA fan, that's totally fine. But I need you to understand just how huge GTA is as a franchise and how big this game will be. It's on a different level than anything that has released in the last decade. It just is. Like the Red Dead Ultimate Edition or Special Edition, a little bit differently because, again, like since 2018, digital copies have, or the digital market share has like doubled or tripled or something crazy like that. Digital copies are way more common today. So the acceptance of that is much more normalized than it was back in 2018 when Red Dead launched. They'll still do, I'm sure, a collector's edition and stuff, but I think any of these things will require that you use the digital version of the game. I don't think they'll do physical early access. I don't think they're going to bother shipping out copies of the game to people as part of this early access thing. And maybe if you buy the digital deluxe or you buy the collector's edition for $300, $400, $500, they could still get you that digital early access. Maybe they just tell you, yeah, we're going to email you the code early. So you still get to play it early, but we're not sending you the disc. I think that that's probably how this works. What's the justification for digital copies costing the same as physical ones? Because they can just tell you to pay it and you will. Like it is stupid because obviously it costs more to make a physical copy than a digital. But if they charge $70 for both, you're still going to buy it because if you want the game, you have to buy it. Like that's how they get away with it. Everybody knew this is where it was going. They were never going to be like, yeah, now we're doing digital, so it's a permanent 10% discount. Like, no. They know you're willing to pay $60 or $70 for the game just to play it. So they're like, yeah, well, we can just keep doing that. Yeah, man. I'm part of the problem. We all are. They'll expect people to double dip for the PC version, I guess. There is going to be double dipping a lot. Yeah. It's why the whole release schedule for all this stuff is so crucial. It's launching in 2025 on PS5 and on Series, I'll do green, and on Series consoles, Series X and S. And it's going to launch on PC later, to be clear, but that's going to come like much later, probably like 18 months. That's typically what they've done. It takes about 18 months to get it out. The other piece of this is that the base game is going to launch on, I don't know, 12/27? No, maybe on the 5th, or it'll be like October 15th or something that they do. But probably about a month later, so like November, is when they'll launch the online. And that's going to be a whole other beast. Because the online is usually for Rockstar treated as a separate animal from the campaign. And then the online launches, and then they bring it to PC a ways after that. And it's all very much broken up like that. But that's probably what they do. Silver Lightning gifted 10 memberships on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you. My goodness. Welcome, everybody. And good timing. All of you guys who are becoming a member right now, you're going to get access to the new Witcher video early. Because yes, the Witcher video is almost done. Jacob, what's the final time on that looking like? I don't actually know what the final run time is looking like, but it's a meaty boy. It's a meaty boy. But you guys will get to see that early. It'll be posted for members only, so you guys can see that early. I like it. I like it. It's a different vibe than some of the other critiques I've done, but I think it's a good one. It's really fun to go back through. It's about 3 hours. Okay, boom. Boom. Yeah, so you guys got that 3-hour Witcher video early with all the other members and stuff. So holla. Holla. Okay. Thank you, my friend, Silver Lining. Again, that was very, very nice of you. Haven't talked about Marvel Rivals, Skylar King. I in passing, we've talked about it. I think it's really good. I've been playing it with my wife and brothers and sisters, and we've been having a great time. Great time. Brown Boy Gaming, thank you for that one. They can do whatever, or they can do what Game Science did with Wukong, sell 20 million copies digital and then get the physical version out. Yeah, why not? Why not? You can double dip a little bit. You can make the most of all of that. Exactly. Like, why get like selfless now when you can double dip, triple dip? Like, you can just go for it. Just go for it. What's my main? I play mainly Hawkeye. I'm still practicing different healers and tanks and stuff, but like 95% of the time I play Hawkeye. Sometimes Star-Lord, but yeah. Yeah. You look like a Hawkeye main. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. And again, Silver Lightning, thank you. That was incredibly generous. And welcome, everybody. Welcome. Also, I'm just going to say this. Everybody who is here, go subscribe to our newest channel, Luke Stevens Clips. We've been rocking and rolling over on this channel. Trevor has been killing it recently. Just nailing it. As you can see, it's just a bunch of smaller clips that don't really make it onto the Luke Stevens live channel because they're shorter, like 2 to 10 minutes. You can always tell by the blue text that it's from the Clips channel, but everything, like, if we talk about something in passing, like the glitch that shows Indiana Jones running in third person, if you missed that segment on the stream, you normally would just be out of luck. But now with the Clips channel, you can see all this little stuff that normally wouldn't make it, but now can get its own little video. So make sure to go subscribe. Luke Stevens Clips just started. You'll be one of the first people over there, but definitely go hit that sub. The algorithm does a great job of mixing in these videos with Luke Stevens Live and the main channel stuff. It's really cool how it works, kind of in tandem, despite being different channels, you know. So, booyah. Booyah. Okay, what else do we have? What else do we have? Oh yeah, this is fun. Should we talk about this one? This is fun. Oh yeah, I should post a link in chat. Sorry, I'm a professional. I'm a professional. Do 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 do. Ba, 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 ba. Here it is. Copy, and I shall paste. And I shall paste. Booyah. Did that work? Yeah, that worked. Okay, booyah. And then over on Twitch as well. This should work. Okay. Voila. You know we have to do it. We know we have to do this, right? Look at this. 38 days for KCD2. Dude, you're telling me, man. Oh my god. Oh my god. You shall not paste. I was gonna make a gross poop joke or something. I was gonna be like, oh, that's what I say after I eat Arby's to my butt, but it wasn't landing. But now I said it anyways, so now we're just here awkwardly sitting. Sorry. Let's talk about something else now. Shifting gears away from that thing I just said. Here we go. Have we done our Todd prayer? No, we're about to do it. We should do that. Where's the candle? Todd! There he is. Okay. New segment. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Everyone, it is time once more for us to let Todd into our hearts. Again, this joke has gone on too long. I don't even remember when it started. We started lighting candles to Todd and having the cardboard cut out. Like, I don't know what happened, but we're in too deep now, and we're not going to let the meme die now. So we're going to stick to it and keep doing it, even though I'm sure it makes him very uncomfortable. I really hope one day I have the good fortune of meeting our patron saint. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be so freaking funny and very awkward. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. This is still a thing, huh? Yeah, Raymond, we're not giving up on it. Dude's going to be like 80 years old when Fallout 5 comes out, and we'll still be lighting candles. We'll still be doing it. Maybe, you know what, Todd, call me. We can start like our own merch line. Imagine how successful that would be if Todd launched his own candle company that I could help market, and we call it like a whiff of Todd. Oh man. Ah, brilliant. We're on track. We're going to make so much money. But the reason we lit the candle today was not just for poops and giggles, but because there's a new article out from the one and only Paul Tassi, who a lot of people don't like for some reason. I don't know why people don't like Paul. I mean, he plays Destiny, so strike one. But beyond that, he does pretty solid writing in my experience. And you can see he did this article here. Former Starfield dev says Bethesda should switch to Unreal Engine 5. Now, we've talked about this a ton, but the age-old question has been, why do they keep the creation engine? It seems to be significantly behind the competition year in, year out. And there's been a number of defenses put out by Todd and by the company that really, some of them are more legitimate and I think valid than others, frankly. I know it's easy for us to meme on some of them, but I think I get what he's saying with some of it. So basically what Todd says is, yes, it's true that while the competition is seeing their technology scale like this, so we'll maybe say like the red engine. Oh, I should probably do this in red text, shouldn't I? Red engine. Okay. This is what Cyberpunk's engine looks like, from The Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk 2.0 and Phantom Liberty. Like, it just keeps getting better and better, blowing your mind. The creation engine, on the other hand, tends to go like this. And so even though back here, it's not that far behind, after more time passes, it gets further and further and further behind, to the point where it's not even in the same ballpark. I mean, it's like a full generation behind, which is where they were kind of at with Starfield, certainly with Fallout 76. And they've already confirmed that Elder Scrolls 6 will be running with the Creation Engine 2. They're not even going to pretend to put another number on it, calling it like 3, because they can do that. They're saying it's going to be in the Creation Engine 2, same toolkit used for Starfield. So it's probably going to look a little bit better in some instances, but probably not much. It's probably going to look like Starfield, but with swords and trees. So the reason Todd has previously said that they aren't moving to a different engine is because, for one, they have a lot of proprietary tools. That's unquestionably true. No question there. They have some tools they have built for like world generation, for scripting, for questing, for dialogue or animations and stuff that are proprietary to the creation engine and that they are used to using. And if they were to move to Unreal Engine 5, they would lose that stuff. That's true. Counterpoint would be Unreal has their own tools for a lot of that. And they have tools that are not really, like, there is nothing comparable in the Creation Club or the creation kit. Like there's just nothing even on that same level. Just for the Witcher 3 video, you guys will see this when it launches here, like probably within the next week for members, certainly. But there is something called motion matching, and it's something that, for example, like Naughty Dog has been doing forever and Rockstar has been doing forever. But basically all it does is it blends a bunch of different animations together so that they have more realistic movements. So instead of, where's a really good example? Maybe, like, as you can see here, it takes all of these different animations together. It can figure out which animation is the most accurate given the movements that are being used. And so it creates much more realistic movements as you navigate levels. This is one of the things that Rockstar has been doing for ages that makes their characters control really well. It's something that Naughty Dog's been doing since like Uncharted 4, and they just do it tremendously well. And it avoids the problems of like Bethesda style games where, you know, it's either full sprint or light jog or walking animation, and there's no middle ground between all of them. Like there's just nothing. So motion matching, and sometimes they call it animation blending. There's a few different ways people say it, but motion matching is an example of a tool that they would get if they moved to Unreal Engine that they don't have anything close to. Like the Creation Club or the Creation Engine just does not have anything like that. So it's true that they will lose some stuff, like maybe their own proprietary cutscene system and workflow, but they will gain others and they can build new ones. And I think the argument for most people is that there will be more positives, more things gained than things lost. Because one of the things you're also going to lose is actually a gain, which is one of the strengths of the Creation Engine is that they have pretty much everything in their levels is physically simulated. So every piece of junk, every pencil laying on the desk, each fork on the table, all of those are physical objects that can be interacted with, added to your inventory, whatever else. That's good for a Fallout game. Sometimes you could also say maybe for an Elder Scrolls game, but I don't think it's as useful as they make it out to be. Like I don't see anybody saying I love Starfield because I can pick up all the spoons. Maybe there's people like that out there, but for me, I think that is something that the Creation Club or the Creation Engine can do, but I don't think anybody really cares. And the downside is that levels are really tight and they have to set up open worlds in this other weird way because of that. They also have other problems like floating or with floats causing issues with entity streaming and physical sim as you get further away from the spawn point. There's so many problems with the Creation Engine that would be alleviated if they just moved to a different toolkit. But it's not just me saying it. It's not just us fans saying it because we're frustrated that their toolkits are really out of date and they don't seem to care.
Gabor Benedek is now a member.
Gabor, thank you for the membership. It's not just us saying it now. A former Starfield dev says that they should do it too. If there was one major complaint about Starfield when it launched in 2023, it was that many aspects of the game felt dated, leaning on aging Bethesda Creation Engine tech. Yes, the engine had been upgraded many times. This was the first game built on Creation Engine 2, and there were certainly some beautiful scenes in the game. So much of it felt overly familiar with years-old Bethesda games that players wondered if it was time for a change. This was one thing that was being discussed before the game came out that maybe it was unfair of me to just immediately call BS, but I was like, okay, we have the Creation Engine. The Creation Engine. And we have this here. I'm gonna demonstrate in real time how Bethesda upgraded this, okay? We have this. What if, I can just imagine Todd in the boardroom saying this. What if we just did this and call it a day? And like, everybody's like, yep, makes sense. Yeah, we just maybe put this right here. Yeah, that looks good to me. Like, that's pretty much what they did. Yes, there are improvements. Yes, they did do some stuff, but to act like it was some foundational change to their workflow or to the creation engine to the point where it would be significantly different was just ridiculous. Like it was patently absurd. And, you know, I got into some tussles with people verbally, and not really tussles, but I was frustrated that a lot of content creators were not calling them out for this because they were acting as though all of those frustrations you've had with our games previously, don't worry about it. The Creation Club or the Creation Engine now is totally fixed. I keep going to call it the Creation Club. Their branding has worked, but I wanted to call it out and be like, guys, it's improved, but do not think that they have like fixed all their problems that have plagued the Creation Engine for years and years and years. This is just a 2 slapped onto the same engine. They just felt like they made enough changes that it warrants another number. It's not like a major overhaul beyond the procedural tech that doesn't look to be very good. So like, what are we doing? But you know, it took the game coming out for people to realize how outdated it was, and you know, there we go. At least one former Bethesda dev agrees. Nate Perkypile, a lead artist who worked on Starfield, Fallout, and Skyrim, and has now set up his own studio, in a recent interview with Kiwi Talks, he explained why he thinks it's time for the Bethesda to move over to Unreal Engine after all this time. This is the same guy that we watched that video like a year ago on the game he's making. Axis Unseen, is this it? Do you guys remember this? There are no textures in the game. It's all just using like nanite tech. And so it's like a survival game. He made everything. He coded everything. He did all the art. He did everything. It's made by like one dude. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But he did all of this, and yeah, there he is. That's him. That's cool that he's actually playing it. That's fun. So that's this guy, to be clear. That this is the guy that's talking. He left Bethesda. He got really burnt out after some of the work he did on like Fallout 76 and early work on Starfield, if I remember correctly. So he moved on, and now he's letting it out. He said, quote, "I think it's pretty telling that there are some studios with similar tech that have made that leap lately, like CD Projekt Red. It's not to say that it wouldn't be a ton of work. Sure, that's completely true. It's not like you're just going to be able to start making the game. But when you have this large tool base and large knowledge base people could pull from, it's easier to hire people and ramp up. I'm of the opinion that it's easier to stay relevant and not always try to play catch up. Like a lot of what was done on Starfield was trying to get all these rendering systems and animation systems up to snuff, and it makes it hard to even actually make the game. The way I describe it to people is that you're on a train, but also laying the train tracks at the same time. But it's also on fire the entire time. Yeah, that sounds right. That checks out. That's funny. Yeah, so 80 level quoted this, said former Starfield and Fallout dev Perkypile explains why switching to Unreal Engine 5 would be a better choice. And they didn't quote anything directly there, but he said, "This is me in case it's not clear. I'm not saying it would be zero work. Obviously it'd be a ton. I just think that it's less work than the constant need to play catch up and the lost productivity due to how that engine works. I've shipped games with both." There are no indications that Bethesda will be moving off Creation Engine for future projects. Elder Scrolls 6 will use Creation Engine 2, just like Starfield, which has drawn some concern among, well, Starfield players. Again, we pointed it out. We've done surveys and polls of you guys with like 70,000 plus responses. Not a small sample size. And my audience is like a lot of RPG and narrative game fans, okay? That like fantasy stuff, like The Witcher, you know, the prime audience for an Elder Scrolls 6. And only something stupid, I believe it was like 6% of people in the last poll said that they were more excited for Elder Scrolls 6 after playing Starfield. Everybody else was either the same or less excited. And that is the polar opposite of what you want. You want people playing X game, and when they play Y game and Z game, they just keep ramping up the excitement because they're like, wow, they really know what they're doing. When you play Phantom Liberty, you get more excited for The Witcher 4 because you see what they're capable of. When you play frickin' God of War 2018, you get more excited for God of War Ragnarok. You know, that's what should happen normally. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I'll catch up on all these in just a minute, guys, just so you know. So thank you for those. This is not a problem unique to Bethesda. Engine problems have been cited in a number of significant delays from companies ranging from EA with the Frostbite engine to Bungie with the Tiger engine, with many fans saying just switch to Unreal. And sometimes they do, but as PerkyPal suggests, it's not easy. And others say it's not worth it. Here's former Starfield systems designer Bruce Nesmith on the idea. We also watched this whole interview and stuff. It was interesting. Do they have the video of it? I don't see the video linked. The full video is very interesting. Bruce Nesmith is a fascinating guy, but he said, quote, "The creation engine has evolved to do exactly the kinds of games that Bethesda makes, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield. It's perfectly tuned to that kind of game. That's the penalty side. That's the risk side." Which, yeah, it is fine-tuned to a certain extent. But I think what is pretty clear is that the advantages the creation engine brings, players are not connecting with. They just aren't. Like, players are not getting super giggly at the idea that they can pick up every spoon and fork that's in the environment. In a game like Fallout, again, that makes more sense. In a game like Starfield, and even the Elder Scrolls to a lesser extent, I don't think it makes as much sense. It's not as useful or as interesting a mechanic to have. And I think there's a lot of downsides to it. And that's the other piece, is that the creation engine single-handedly, like when you mention it, people do not think stunning tech. They think buggy, broken mess. And the Unreal Engine has many, many problems. We've watched videos, many of them, even in the last month or so, outlining some of the significant problems that engine has. Threat Interactive does a tremendous job of breaking down some of these problems, and like the problem with all of the reliance on temporal upscalers, on frame generation, on GPU optimization issues. Like, they do a ton of great breakdowns on all of these problems, and I find it fascinating. You should go watch all of their videos. But the point is, just from a branding perspective, people think Unreal Engine, they think amazing graphical fidelity. They do think it's heavy to run. And recently, I think they probably think of like stutters and like shader compilation issues. But they're working very hard to overcome that. Creation Engine, though, I don't think anybody thinks positively of that. Like, I don't think anybody does. Could they physicalize all the objects they use in Unreal Engine 5? Probably with a lot of work, but the creation engine is specifically tailored for physical simulation of all those objects, which is why they kind of create scenes that you play in. And you can't really, like, it's why there's a load screen between every door. When you go inside a building, there's a load screen, because as you load into that new area, it's a new simulation almost, if you think of it like that. And so they just can't get to the point if they go and have all the interiors and exteriors as part of one gigantic scene. The creation engine just cannot handle that. So you have to break it up into smaller scenes, and then one big outdoor scene that has much less physical interaction. You'll notice in Fallout 4, for example, there's not a whole lot of physical sim junk spilled on the ground while you're exploring in the wastes. There just isn't. Inside the interiors, lots. But outside, there's not hardly any. And it's because of that simple reality of how they set it up. So going on with this, I think just from a branding perspective, when you're trying to sell customers on your game, if your tool set is such an albatross around your neck that people sigh when they hear you're using it, that's not a great sign. It's just not. It's the same thing like if they announce that, oh, Christopher Nolan's new movie, it's launching exclusively on TikTok. Like, why shoot yourself in the foot? Like, immediately people are less excited. He's like, I filmed it vertical because you all have phones, don't you? Everybody would be like, I don't care. Like, I want to go to the movie theater. Like, come on. And whenever you have any announcement or any piece of your framing that makes your audience less excited or that makes them sigh and cringe, if you can fix it, if you can address it, I feel like you should, but maybe the costs are just too high. It seems pretty clear which side Bethesda has come down on, at least for the foreseeable future. We still do not have a date on Elder Scrolls 6, but the fact that it was announced in 2018 and we are headed into 2025 does not paint a picture of speedy development. Exactly. But as Nesmith notes, you can also make great games and bad games on Unreal Engine, and Creation Club or Creation Engine has certainly been responsible for some great ones. But is, quote, laying down the tracks while on fire sustainable in the indefinite future? I guess that's a call Bethesda needs to make, at least for now. And at least for now, they've made that decision. I think it's pretty clear that Todd does not feel the benefits outweigh the downsides. I don't know if it's just overconfidence or if it's that he knows something we don't about Elder Scrolls 6, that he's like the creation or the Unreal Engine just can't do it. I don't know. But I guarantee you, like, I can see the videos and the memes already being made. I can already see the memes being made of Elder Scrolls 6 versus Witcher 4. Because they're probably launching pretty damn close to each other. And let's just be honest. Is there any freaking way that Elder Scrolls 6 is graphically or detail-wise, animation-wise, musically, like, is there any chance it excels over The Witcher 4 in anything? I don't think so. And I think we all kind of know that. But that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, is that this is going to launch next to those games. And I don't think it's even going to be close because, like I said earlier, the graph for the Creation Engine has not been a linear matter. It's not been that they're keeping up with everybody. The graph has been that Unreal Engine is going up at a pretty steady rate, but the Creation Engine has been seeing diminishing returns as time has gone by. And if we're right here, by the time Elder Scrolls 6 and Witcher 4 launch, I think the discrepancy is going to be massive. If you thought that like the memes about Starfield were bad and did damage to the game already, just you wait. Just you wait. Like, what was it RDR2 if, let me see. This from GU1 Maz on YouTube. These memes are all over the place today. These videos are all over the place today. And like, even if they are predictable and everybody knows the joke before it happens, you would think that like Bethesda would at least address it or deal with it. Like they would try to figure out how to avoid this. But this does so much brand damage to not just the Creation Engine, but to Bethesda in general, the perception that they are way behind everybody else. I think they've got to figure out how to deal with it. And maybe it's that when they announce Elder Scrolls 6, they just come out like very, very clearly and they say, we are dealing with those problems. We are going to make sure that everything is one consistent entity, everything streams seamlessly, whether you go inside buildings, outside buildings, which should be no duh. I mean, that's been a standard in open world games for like well over a decade at this point, but I think that they're going to have to address it that way. I think they're going to have something like that. Otherwise, they're just going to get curb stomped. Because again, like, I think The Witcher 4 will come out so winging, and there is no way on earth that that the creation engine is going to keep up with it. So we'll see, but maybe I thought Starfield would be the nail in the coffin for the creation engine, but it seems like they are not convinced it was a problem. So they're going to just try again. And maybe Elder Scrolls 6 needs to have problems, and that's what's going to wake them up. But at that point, like, they're probably just going to say, screw it. No, we're good. And I mean, that's the other piece of being owned by Microsoft is what's the incentive to be cutting edge? Like, Microsoft for Game Pass games is more concerned. Of course, they'd like tons of sales. They'd like it to be cutting edge. They'd like it to be amazing and impressive. But more than anything, they just need games that keep people subscribed. That's the ultimate goal, is to have content that you play for a long time so you keep your subscription. If it's a 7 out of 10 that you play for 1,000 hours, that's better to them, I think, than if it's a 9 out of 10 you play for 30 hours. So we'll see. But the fact that so many Bethesda devs have left and are now like kind of talking bad about the studio, and then, you know, they have some good stuff to say, certainly, you know, it's not all bad or anything, but the fact that they're getting out there and airing some of the dirty laundry about how inefficient their processes are, where Will Shen is saying he spent a ton of his time making tutorials on how to use the creation engine. Like, I think that's pretty telling, because this is the stuff that's getting out. This is the stuff people are talking about publicly. Imagine the shit they talk behind the scenes when they're just at dinner talking with each other over the headaches of working there. Like, this is what they'll say in front of their peers publicly, and they know pricks like me are going to talk about it. But oh Todd, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with you? We'll put him back into his container until another day. I might set off the smoke alarm. That was a lot. Oops. It's okay though. We'll be okay. All right. Split Fiction. I think it looks great. I think Split Fiction looks awesome. I'm very excited for that. That is the one in March that I think could be it's not even like a sleeper hit. Like, I think it's going to be a hit. It's just a matter of like how much of a hit. Like, does that start to take over some of the online discourse that Monster Hunter Wilds will start talking a lot about? I don't know. Okay. That guy 6387, thank you for that 5. I want to play Stalker 2 so bad, but it keeps bricking my PC even after patches. Unreal has problems too. Oh, 1000% it does. But also Stalker 2 is quite janky, so it's not just Unreal Engine. That game has had some issues with optimization. I'm glad they polished it, because at launch, I was talking to a buddy like a couple days ago before Christmas, and he was working on a review of Stalker 2 with the outlet he works at, and he was like, bro, the version of the game we got initially was bad. Like, it was so broken. He's like, we would have had to give it like a 5 or a 6. It was that bad. It was real rough. It's like, I'm just so thankful that they patched it and it actually did something. It actually fixed stuff, because he said the original review code was really rough. So I'm glad they fixed it, but yeah, They cut it close. I think they cut it pretty close. When the time is right, can we get the longest ooh baby you've ever done? If I had been watching the Game Awards live and we were streaming it and I saw that Witcher 4 reveal, you definitely would have gotten it. I think when the time is right, you will get it. It will just have to be when something crazy happens. It has to be earned, you know? It has to be earned. Thank you, Odin, for that. Mark Fleming, thank you for the very generous $10 super chat. This is off topic, but why do we have people like Smash JT lying about CDPR, saying I'm not sure what doned is, because people left the company 4 years ago, and making it seem like they left yesterday. Like is done maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure who Smash JT is, but from the context of your question, I think what they're probably suggesting is that like CDPR is dying and doomed. Oh, they're done. Okay, both those make sense. And that like CDPR is screwed and the game's gonna suck because one person left for another studio a few years ago. I think if they're saying that stuff, it's probably a naivete of how the games industry works. A lot of people shift around a ton and move around a ton. And it's very common for people to work at one studio, ship a game, move to another studio where they move a little higher up, and then they move to another studio where they move a little higher up. It's how like tech companies work the same way. It's just the reality of the industry. And the other piece of it too is that there's other extenuating circumstances, like maybe somebody doesn't like living in Poland, or maybe somebody doesn't like living in London and they want to move with their family to California, so they look for a job at a studio out there. Like there's so many reasons people can leave, and it could also just be that it's something as simple as, yeah, I made The Witcher 3. I like fantasy games. I don't really want to work on a sci-fi futuristic cyberpunk game for the next decade of my life. So I'm going to move to another studio where I can work on a fantasy game. It could be something as simple as that. So I don't find a lot of alarmism there that compelling. What I will say is that specific people who are influential, if they leave, I think then you're justified to be like, okay, well, I'll keep an eye on it. Like if Hidetaka Miyazaki left From Software, if he just retired out of nowhere, it's like, I'm not making any more games. I'm going to go write children's books. Then when we saw the reveal of Elden Ring 2, I'd probably be less excited than I would have otherwise. And so in some very specific cases, I think it can influence your opinion or your excitement for something. But if you're looking at individual game designers or writers and stuff, and you're like, see, they left, it's extremely normal. You know. It's because companies don't value seniority. Well, not enough to keep the talent, obviously. Because if they did, then they would give them enough raises or pay to keep them. So yeah, I think it's a problem across the tech industry, just more broadly. And it just is what it is. But it's also not just the tech industry. I mean, all major corporations nowadays, they don't really value keeping somebody there employed for 20, 30, 40 years. Like they expect you to stay for 5 years and then move, and they'll hire somebody new and rotate. So, yeah. Some of these comments, man. I don't know who JT is, but it seems like he's a polarizing figure. To say the least. Let's talk about something else. Booyakasha. Let's go here. Now I want to watch Robin Hood Men in Tights. Man! Maybe I can download it for the plane. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay. I think maybe we touch on this. Okay. Where are you going? Bahamas. Gonna go to the Bahamas for a couple weeks. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time. Let's see. I read that one. Sharing Gun Shenanigans. Thank you for the 5. Will you be doing a video reviewing Metaphor ReFantazio on my 3rd run now? One of my favorite games ever, alongside Elden Ring and Persona 5 Real. Will I do a video reviewing it? I've talked about it on stream a bunch. Because I love Metaphor. I'm not like, but honestly, by the time I'm ready to do a big video on it, I don't think the video would do well at all. I think we would spend a few weeks working on it, and it would do worse than if I just posted a video dressed up as Todd Howard, like flossing, like from Fortnite. I think it just wouldn't be that viable from a business perspective. And plus, I also kind of like the idea of having certain games that are for me, you know, that I play for me, that I don't try to make videos on. Because I'll tell you what, like every time I play anything, I'm like, okay, I've got to go down to the studio. I have to turn on the second PC. I have to record the footage. I have to put the footage on the server. We have to sync the servers for between me and Jacob so he can cut the video on it later. And then I have to be taking notes for what I want to talk about when I do a video on this game. And it makes it so you can't really ever sit down and just enjoy a game. So having some games like Metaphor where I'm not going to put out content, I'm just going to enjoy it. I think that's important for me to still enjoy the games that I'm talking about, you know? Yeah, Metaphor is from Atlas, guys. Yeah, Metaphor is great. It takes everything they learned from Persona and makes it just a little bit better. And, you know, if you really like the Persona setting and music and art style, it might not translate fully to Metaphor because of like this magic medieval kind of thing, more fantasy oriented. But I really, really like it. And it gets me really excited for what they're doing next. But yeah, I think it's really good. I don't blame people if they don't like it, but I personally really like it. Gabo, thank you for that one. Why would they switch? It just works. Yeah, dude, for real. Oh my god. Dwight Farfield, thank you for the sub with Prime also. Thank you, my friend. You can make a Game of the Year video on it. Easy. Yeah, I do think, what do you guys think? Is it worth doing an entire video on the main channel for Game of the Year? Like for my Game of the Year picks? Because I don't know, from my perspective, I'm like, who cares what I think is Game of the Year? At this point, everybody knows. I mean, I would watch it. I mean, I appreciate it. We care. Yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. I think like I could do it. I think the other like flip on it could be the most disappointing games of 2024. That seems to be an easy video to put together. Because some like we saw coming a mile away, but yeah. Games that weren't talked about enough. Oh yeah, that could work. I'd rather see a Why I Love Metaphor video. Well, maybe what I can do, like, here's the thing. We're going to the Bahamas for like 2 weeks. I'm a workaholic. I love talking about games. It's my passion. So even when I'm on vacation, it's what I like to do. But I'm on vacation with people who don't like to talk about games, so I go stir crazy. So I still fully expect that I'm going to be recording a few videos or even streaming if the internet is good enough while I'm out doing that. So there will still be content going up while I'm in the Bahamas. But the tricky little tidbit is how we do it, whether it's streamed or if it's just recorded videos. I'm not sure. But either way, I do think there's the potential for me to be able to do some videos like that. Why Metaphor is my Game of the Year or whatever. and I just record that maybe on the 31st on a beach, and I could upload that. So there's definitely ways that we could do that. So I think absolutely. Trenton, thank you for the 10. Do you think BGS will ever go to Unreal Engine, or are they just going to stick with the Creation Engine for years to come? Also not sure why CDPR goes to Unreal Engine when their own engine feels just as good. There's a bajillion reasons why they moved to Unreal. I think chief among them is just that it's going to be way easier for them to work fast and efficiently and hire new people that can start work immediately. I think a lot of their goals are to avoid the problems of a lot of AAA developer or AAA games nowadays, which is that they get caught in development hell with engine problems and with development problems that could have been alleviated if they just stopped trying to do their own thing and started letting other companies do that for them, which Unreal Engine basically does. So I think there's that. And then also they basically were guaranteed that Epic would work night and day to make Unreal Engine work for them. And so I think that they just don't need to stress too much over it. Like they're good. They're good. You know, so I think there's that. What's the other tidbit? As for BGS swapping, I just think at this point they've said they're using it for Elder Scrolls 6. So if Starfield's here, Starfield, and then Elder Scrolls 6 is here. They're using it through here. Maybe they decide like they're going to use it for Fallout 5, which presumably comes after. But like, here's the problem. If they're going to use it for Fallout 5, they have to decide like here. Because they have to start moving everything over. They have to start building out their own proprietary stuff that they're going to need for Fallout. They have to decide before Elder Scrolls 6 launches. But I don't think that they're going to do that. I think they still love the smell of their own farts enough that they're going to just do whatever they do. And they're going to get to this point. They're going to put the game out. It's going to be panned for being technologically out of date and buggy and inconsistent in quality and all that. And then it's going to be too late. Because either they start here and are like, okay, we'll move to Unreal Engine or a different engine. We'll go beg Gorilla to give us a copy of Decima or something. Like, we'll do that. But even if they do that here, that just means this gets scooched even further. It just means that what they should have started here now starts here. So they don't really start development until you hit this point and the groundwork has been laid. So there's just no good option. And I think if they were going to use Unreal on Fallout, they would have to make that decision probably in the next like year or two and start making those moves. Because you notice they decided to move, CDPR decided to move to Unreal Engine before they entered full production. They only just went into new production, or full production rather. So they made that move before entering full production and before they really kicked it off. And they're going to have to do something similar. So we'll see. All right. Where's the GTA 6 trailer? Yeah. Where is it? I thought all those X accounts and YouTubers said that it was guaranteed. Because when you add up the alphanumeric numbers of happy holidays, it equals, and then you subtract them from each other, it equals 27. I thought that was foolproof, man. A lot of people leave a studio and come back to the original studio to get promoted because that's the only way to move up. It's really weird. Yeah. I was talking to a guy that he worked at Ubisoft. He left to go work at, I think it was EA on something. And then, was it EA? I don't remember. But it was one of those studios. And he bounced off there, worked for like 6 years on a couple of other games there. And then he came back to the original studio, but got hired like as a senior producer or whatever. So like he did just kind of bounce back and forth. To be fair, Luke, the devs did troll a little bit. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Odin. I think that Rockstar saw all this happening, and were like, okay, we can use this. Let's ham it up a little. It's a little funny. Like, I think they knew what they were doing. But nobody was willing to consider that they were being trolled a little bit by Rockstar. That was not an option. It was like, no. Either they don't know anything about it, or it's part of a grand conspiracy. And it's like, those aren't the only two options. It could be that it's a fun coincidence. They do know about it, but it's not a grand conspiracy. They're just messing with you because it's really, really funny. So I went to the Bahamas once and noticed that all the non-vacation spots are basically a third world country. Yeah, I think there's certainly spots like that. I won't say precisely where we're going, but it's definitely more vacation-y than, like, we're not going to a resort, but it's definitely more vacation oriented than it is like a true look at life in the Caribbean. Also, what is the official pronunciation? Is it Caribbean or Caribbean? How to pronounce Caribbean?
Caribbean.
Caribbean. British say
Caribbean.
okay, you guys.
Caribbean. Caribbean.
Okay, so American pronunciation is Caribbean. The British, they get a bottle of water and then they say Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Caribbean. Caribbean. Isn't it? Dilly. Man, you British people are funny. I need a Pirates of the Caribbean. Sorry, a Pirates of the Caribbean game. Dude, I know. We need it yesterday, but I don't think we're ever getting it. There was that like leaked story bit where they were saying that they were considering bringing the franchise back and doing another movie, and all the comments were, if Johnny's not in it, I'm not interested, and they just filled it up with that. And this is something that like people know Hollywood does. They will leak something to gauge public opinion. So like when they're considering casting somebody, they'll leak, this person's being considered for the role, says people familiar with the matter. Like they intentionally leak it to gauge public reactions to it. And I think that that's exactly what they were doing. I think they were trying to see how people would react to a new Pirates of the Caribbean film, and everybody was just like, if Johnny's not in it, I'm good. Yeah, it's Jack Sparrow. Like you have to have Jack Sparrow in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Otherwise, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just a pirate movie, which could be fine. But if they're going to try to hit that same tone and vibe as Pirates of the Caribbean, it doesn't work. You need Jack Sparrow there. So congratulations. You made it an incredible character that people know and love, but you kind of need that character once you've built it, you know? So we'll see. But yeah, I'd be shocked if we get a Pirates of the Caribbean game at any point. Silver Lightning, thank you for the 9 months. Ooh, baby. Anyone played Sid Meier's Pirates? I need a sequel for that. That actually would be amazing. I've never been able to get it working, but I've watched videos on people who play it and have it and show what they did with it. It's really, really cool. I would love a like fully redone version of that. I think that could be super good. Modernize it a bunch. Get your bottle of rum for the Caribbean. Yeah, dude. I'm so ready. I am not joking. I am packing in a suitcase roughly a gallon of pina colada mix in anticipation of laying on the beach and drinking them all day, every day. I am so ready. We're also organizing like deep sea fishing trips. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited. I did recently get a rum coffee flavor. Oh, that sounds wonderful. That's so dangerous. Get rid of it now. No, I mean, I'll get rid of it by drinking it. So I guess I will. Don't get eaten. I'll try, but I mean, if that's what the ocean wants, that's what the ocean wants. Rate your swimming 1 to 10. Not great. My wife is like a freak of nature in the water. She was 9 months pregnant, like ready to pop. And she's like, I just want to go to the pool. So we went to the pool at the Y near our old house. And she just swam all the way down like the Olympic swimming pool. She just jumped in and dove, full baby bump and everything. Did not come up for air once. Made it all the way to the end and then pops up. And then just does like whatever that stroke is. All the way back across, does like 3-4 laps back and forth. And she's like, yeah, I feel good. Like, what are you talking about? I would have drowned 4 or 5 times over by this point. Like, I cannot do that. I can't. A dolphin, literally. I thought you said the mix was too expensive. Yeah, so the catering bottle that's like a gallon is like $95 because it comes with the rum mixed in. We're not doing that. I'm getting like just the pina colada mix bottles. And then we're going to get the rum when we're there, get the like legit rum. And so we're going to do it that way. Because, yeah, the catering bottles of pina colada were freakishly expensive. But if you just do it separate, it's great. Yeah, my wife is a crazy good swimmer. She did the swim team all through high school. And I'm nowhere near like that. I doggy paddle for a solid 15 feet and then I just start going down. Start gulping in the water. David taking a break from Infinity Nikki to watch. Good. Good. I'm glad to have you here. Luke, you should also learn how to pronounce Ragnarok because you're all driving us Scandinavians crazy. Oh, really? What is the proper pronunciation of Ragnarok? Ragnarok. Ba 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 ba. You pronounce it as Rughu. What? What? Okay. Ragnarok. Sounds like Nar, but with a short Ragnarok. Ragnarok. What? I don't understand. Do the Scandinavian way, I guess. Okay. Ragnarok pronunciation, Scandinavian. Okay, if you need me to say that, I'm gonna be real. I don't know how to do that. I really, I don't know, man. Okay. Old Norse?
I've been asked about this one a lot. How do you pronounce Ragnarok in Old Norse? It was pronounced Ragnarok.
Oh, that's the whole video. Okay, well, Ragnarok.
Welcome to the reading. So let's dive into today's word.
This has,
which means,
dude, this has to be AI generated. That's so bad. Swedish. How to pronounce it in Swedish?
Ragnarök.
Ragnarök.
Rag-
Ragnarök.
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 Bro, you just roll the R's? Okay. Oh, there you go. Who knew? While we are unsure about how to pronounce Ragnarok, we luckily know how to flawlessly pronounce Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Dude, hold on. And then we'll get back to gaming. Now I just need to see this. Where is it? Yeah.
And the Grammy goes to Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh my god.
And the Grammy goes to
Dude, Ubisoft posted it.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Dude. Is this the official Ubisoft? It is. The official Ubisoft page posted that. Dude, that's so good. Oh my god. Oh, my tummy hurts. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, they won a Grammy. Yeah. Yeah, they did. They did. Isn't that great? Dude, again, people forget Valhalla was like big. It made a lot of money. Revenue wise, it was like over $1 billion. It had millions upon millions upon millions of players for months. Like, it was a massive success, which is why I think it's so stunning to see Shadows struggle to get its feet under it. But it's going to be really interesting. I think, as I've said before, and you'll see in a video we're going to put up today, I think my personal prediction is that I think Valhalla, or rather Shadows, I think it's going to be like, I think it'll be a better game than people expect, but I don't think it will light the world on fire in terms of sales. I think a lot of people are going to wait for sale regardless. Even if like Metacritic is in the high 80s, I think people will still wait for sales. And when that happens, I think it's going to send Ubisoft kind of into a nosedive and a spiral, and then Tencent's going to swoop in and kind of take control. I think that's what's happening. Yeah. Since when can games get Grammys? It's like just, I think entertainment in general can qualify. Valhalla was carried by COVID. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Dude, I got this heavy duty flashlight because I realized I didn't have a flashlight like for the house if somebody breaks in. Because if you break into my house, I'm just going to warn you. Pra, pra is all I'm going to say. But I realized I didn't have a flashlight to like shine on someone and see the target before dealing with it. And this thing is quite bright. Like, we have studio lighting in this room. Do you have any idea how bright something needs to be to do that? To still show up that bright in this space? Oh, God. Like, it's hardcore, man. This thing gets shining in your face in the middle of the night. You're in trouble. You're not seeing anything. Shadow's gonna die between KCD, Civ, Avowed, Monster Hunter. I think it does way better than Avowed. I don't think anything will do better than Monster Hunter. I think that's gonna be the biggest game of Q1. I think KCD 2, I'm guessing, will be my favorite of those, but yeah. Civ 7 will be big. It'll be big, but I don't think players who are interested in KCD are going to be buying Civ 7. You know, I don't think that the overlap is there. But speaking of news segment, let's talk about this real quick. Okay. So this video is roughly, it's actually a little over a month old, but I want to look at it because we have been talking a lot about some of the games that are coming in Q1. Games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming early February, Civ 7, Monster Hunter Wilds. Early in March, we get Split Fiction, which is the new game from Hazelight, the guys that did It Takes Two, previous Game of the Year winners. So definitely something to pay attention to. We talked about all these. One that we've not really circled back to in a month and a half, 2 months, is Avowed. Kind of the elephant in the room right now, because it sits in a weird spot. Like for a lot of this, it's pretty clear to see where the competition is going to lie. Like if we have our little timeline sketched out, and like February 4th, so 4th is KCD2. Whoa, my God. KCD2. And then a little while later, we have like Avowed, and we have AC Shadows, and then we have Monster Hunter over here, and we have the Pirate Yakuza game, and there's just a bunch of stuff. Civ 7, there's a bunch of games in here. And for some of them, I think we can guesstimate where they're going to land. Like Monster Hunter is going to be massive. Monster Hunter is going to break records and make millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like Monster Hunter is going to be huge. We all know it. We're all going to play it because it's going to be awesome, I'm sure. Assassin's Creed, even when AC doesn't do that well, it still does big numbers. Even like AC Mirage moved like 5 million copies in the first month or two. It does like it does crazy numbers very, very quickly. But where Shadows lands, it's up in the air, but I think it does better than some like rage baiter types are probably expecting. I think some people are like, oh, it's going to flop totally. Like it's going to still move millions of copies. The question is how many millions, because they need many millions of copies moved. AC is just a big franchise. It just is. Whether that means it's a success compared to Ubisoft's expectations is a separate question entirely. Like they spent so much on Shadows, they could be in a spot where they could still sell like 5 million copies, 7 million copies, and it could still be considered a failure because of how expensive that is. So that's a separate issue.
Avowed.
Sorry, I hit space early. So that's something that could still be up in the air. But when we compare it to the competition, I think it still sells many, many copies. That brings us to like KCD2 and Avowed. I don't think Civ 7 is competing with KCD, Avowed, or Shadows. I think it's its own thing. The RTS fans, like they're in a separate bubble. So I think that'll do well regardless. But then you're looking at KCD versus Avowed. And I think KCD is going to pop off in comparison. And so that puts Avowed in this weird middle spot where it's launching between some behemoths. And I don't know why they don't just delay it, frankly. But I've not played it. I have not done any of the previews. I don't know what to expect from it beyond what's been discussed in some previews and things like that. So I wanted to look back at this video that, again, is a little over a month old, where the one and only Force Gaming got the chance to play it for an extended period of time and has some thoughts to share. So I want to check this out with you today. Of course, as always, go subscribe to the one and only Force Gaming. Show him some love. Let's see what he thought of it.
All right, so Avowed. Wow. Just wow. I didn't really have many expectations going into this one. From the little gameplay footage that I'd seen over the years, nothing about the game was really hooking me or leaving me with much anticipation. But man, after playing this game, it's an entirely different story. This feels like a condensed, more jam-packed take on Skyrim. Imagine if you took Skyrim and put it in one of those vacuum seal bags. You just sucked all the air out and squished everything together. That's what Avowed is like. There's little in the way of open expansion expanses for you to wander through, sure. But instead, what you're left with is points of interest, camps, huts, enemy outposts, caves. There's just stuff to see and do everywhere you turn. And I'm comparing it to Skyrim because there's some obvious connections between the two, but I don't quite think it's going to reach the heights of Bethesda's masterpiece. However, nevertheless, even just from my early preview of the game, I'm pretty confident that Obsidian has built something worthy of praise here. While it is smaller in scope, Avowed still manages to deliver a sense of exploration and discovery in a fantasy setting infused with Obsidian's charms, loaded with secrets, puzzles, and loot to be found, interesting characters and places to discover. I don't know, man. I'm just impressed, frankly. I really enjoyed what I've seen thus far, to the point that Avowed is now one of my most anticipated games of next year. I liked it that much. So let's talk about it. Things begin.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So we've heard generally positive previews in other previews we looked at, like, you know, in the last couple of months. We've heard people say that they were impressed by this latest one. When we looked at the IGN preview from Destin, he was discussing how, like, there are some little tidbits that are frustrating, like companions, for example, do the same thing where, like, they solve puzzles for you before you even try, and there's some issues like that with constant attempts at witty banter and, you know, some things that can be frustrating. But on the whole, it seems like people are generally fairly impressed. And I think my gut feeling is that this is one of those, like, B- games that Obsidian has been pretty good at putting out recently, where it's good, it's got some big problems or some kind of glaring shortcomings compared to, like, the AAA behemoths, but for what it is, they can be fun. There's obviously some other, like, extenuating circumstances with, like, the art director, which I'm sure people are either already mentioning in chat or will mention in the comments when this goes up as a clip. I guess to address that, basically there's, like, an art director who said, or, like, the art director who said that he doesn't want to hire crusty old white guys, were his words, and he doesn't want to, or he wants to replace white employees with more diverse employees and things. Stuff that I thought if you just admitted to, you'd be fired for, like admitting that you're not going to hire people based on their race or age. Like, I thought that was illegal, but apparently you can do that and not just not face a lawsuit, but also apparently keep your job and be fine. So I think that those comments are disgraceful, but at the same time, I didn't think it was fair to try and cancel Black Myth Wukong over some of the cringy and at times probably mistranslated, but still cringy statements from some individual developers. I thought it was unfair to, like, cancel an entire game because of what one prick was saying. And in this case, I think it's a similar vibe. I don't think it's fair to, like, cancel the whole game or boycott the whole game because one a-hole said something insane. I hope the people who suffered as a result of this guy's policies file a lawsuit against him, because you will win and you will never have to work again in your life. I'm just telling you right now, like, what he publicly said is like a lawyer's wet dream, okay? Like, there is so much meat on the table for a lawyer to go at. Call someone, okay? If you applied for a job and you didn't get it and you're white, I'm telling you, call someone. It's so clear cut. It's crazy. But anyway, all of that set aside, if we're just looking at the game for what it is, I think there's a lot of progress that has been made. The original previews and stuff, looked really clunky. They've gotten way better. I think the combat's gotten way better. Funnily enough, my one problem with Avowed, like, big problem I've had since this latest set of reveals, has been the art direction, which is kind of funny that, like, the guy in charge of the art direction ends up being the toxic prick that, like, is thrusting his entire game and company into scandal, which is, like, a little funny because the original trailer was this, like, really cool dark and gritty thing. I got so excited when I saw this super dark vibe. I was like, this is what I want, a dark fantasy game from Obsidian. Hells yeah. We saw this, and this is, like, how they end it. I'm all in for it. What we actually ended up getting was very, very different. When they dropped the gameplay reveal, it's, like, super colorful and artsy. So funnily enough, like the thing I like least about the game is what that guy worked on, and is like his thing is the art direction. So I find it a little funny that he's the problem in more ways than one. But having said that, the previews looking at the game for what the game is have been generally pretty positive. It is a condensed thing. It's kind of like the Outer Worlds being a much more condensed sci-fi RPG. That's probably what this is. Yeah. What we get is some purple fantasy again. Dude, I don't know what the deal is with the purple crystals, purple fantasy thing. Like every game is doing this. Even Suicide Squad. Pop the purple zits. It's really weird.
Avowed still manages to deliver a sense of exploration and discovery in a fantasy setting infused with Obsidian.
Why didn't people sue the art director? They might be. It just takes months to set up a lawsuit. Like I've had some legal proceedings, not lawsuits against people like this. I mean, nothing like this, but just to file like a handful of paperwork, you'd be surprised at how long it takes, because the lawyers want to make sure all their ducks are in a row before they knock over that first domino. So there could be something in the works and it's just going to get dropped. Like, who knows? Maybe they're going to time it right as Avowed is about to launch, so all the media attention is on it. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know.
Charms loaded with secrets, puzzles, and loot to be found, interesting characters and places to discover. That much. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Begin as per usual at character creation, although unfortunately for whatever reason they didn't let us record the intro to the game, maybe due to spoilers, I'm not exactly sure, but all of the expected stuff is here. You're going to select your character's appearance from a wide range of options, including the godlike features that you want on your face, which ties directly into the narrative. We'll get to that. You also pick your background, which determines your starting weapons and unlocks certain dialogue options, and then after a brief tutorial introducing you to the basics, you arrive at the docks of the first playable open world zone, which are the Dawnlands. And here you will immediately meet a few new characters who then lay the groundwork of the game's story, which is you are playing as a dying breed of god-touched beings, and you specifically have been sent on this mission to help the people of the living lands. Help them with what exactly? Well, there's a mysterious plague that's been spreading, wreaking havoc on the people, creatures, and environment. Your goal is to solve the mystery of that plague, helping however you can, while also dealing with these magical crystals that whisper to you from time to time as you play through the game. And there's also the fact that you stick out like a sore thumb. Most people think that the god-touched beings are a thing of the past, yet here you are, a bit of a fish out of water, but you're in good company as there are literal fish out of water people walking around these lands as well.
Whoa. Use the fish word. I didn't realize it was that kind of video, but oops. No, I love water. I love boats in general. So if there's any naval component to this, I'm a giddy little fella. I'll tell you what.
Of them acts as your companion. And that's about all I will say for the story stuff. I will add though, I have quite liked most of the characters I've come across. Story and narrative and dialogue stuff at the bottom of the barrel in terms of things that pull me into a lot of these games, even fantasy RPGs that are dialogue heavy. I'm more about the world building and the immersion and storytelling through exploration and doing stuff. But nevertheless, I've liked what I've seen.
Does anyone know what Forrest thinks of like Kingdom Come? Because if that's the kind of stuff he cares about that makes the difference for him, I mean, Kingdom Come is going to be like his bread and butter, I'm sure. Like, I think that's going to be his thing, because that's where that game also, the original, really, really excels. But, yeah, it's, again, I think they're very capable of, like, Obsidian's very, very good in general, but, like, I just don't like the art style, man.
Here, like, I've quite enjoyed these characters. The game does include the expected dialogue options, with the majority of the quest and interactable NPCs giving you multiple responses or questions that you can ask them throughout. Lots of personality.
Isn't it crazy though that their cutscene system and their dialogue system is way better than Starfield's? Like, even just these dynamic camera movements, they're really simple. It's not on the level of what The Witcher 3 does or what AC Odyssey did or any of those, but just this dynamic camera placement stuff is already like way better than just the straight on raw conversation thing that Starfield did. It's wild to me how a smaller studio can figure it out.
Lots of personality in these characters, a fair bit of humor in here as well, and some great VO delivery. I liked it across the board. Okay, so you're on the docks, you got the story basics, you got the lay of the land. Now it's time to get out and go exploring. As I said, Avowed feels like a condensed, jam-packed version of Skyrim. And I'm referencing Skyrim here, but really you could compare this to any large-scale open-world RPG because it's like those, but in a much tighter package. It's what I refer to as not open world, but
I mean, some of us like tighter packages, but
open zone. You've got these rather big single zones that you are free to explore within their bounds, but there are bounds all around the edges that you can't go past. And how big is it? Well, we only had a preview which only gave us access to a single zone, but I get the sense that this game could be rather substantial. This preview gave us access to the one area after the tutorial, that being the Dawnlands. In this zone alone, I have already spent roughly 15 hours with the game. That is how long it took me to go around and see just about everything here, but not even everything, because we didn't even have access to the city of Paradise, which is a rather large, taking up a good chunk of the center portion of the map that was restricted from the preview, presumably because it progresses the story into the subsequent zones. So my guess is that this first zone could easily have a solid 20-ish hours of content if you spend time thoroughly going around looking for everything, checking in every corner, searching around for loot and hidden treasures and secrets, and there's a lot here to see, which we'll get into. So pulling back from the Dawnlands into the world map, we can see here what looks to be the rest of the available play space that will have come launch. This is referred to as the Living Lands, and as you can see, the first zone, Dawnlands, makes up just a small fraction of this overall map, which has me quite excited that the game could be fairly decent in size.
yeah, I mean, if this, of course, we're assuming the density is going to be the same. If this is the area for the preview, and he says it took him about 15 hours, and that was not the city. City maybe, let's say, adds 5. So 20 hours just for this. If you extrapolate and you're like, okay, well then if it's that size, 20 hours for each of these. So 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, maybe up here is another bit. So 140, like maybe there's that level, but typically these games tend to like thin out as they go on, with areas like this being used for final confrontations, or same thing with like the snowy areas that are much more like focused on the one event that happens there, the big set piece. So it's not typical that like the density continues and maintains through the whole game. So ballpark, I don't think they've said what they expect player like runtime to look like, but I don't, like a 100-hour RPG is a big game. Like that is not easy to put together. I would not expect it to be on that level. My guess is you're gonna go to like, you do this stuff for the prologue sequences and the opening chapters, and then this is probably a sizable map. You see all the mountains around there. I think each of these are going to be their own little playable area. I guess I can do it like this here. Boop, boop. I think it's probably that if we're looking at playable areas, it's like this. I think this is, let's go red. I think this is playable. All these mountains, probably not really playable. I think you can travel this way. This is probably a playable area. These mountains, I think, are invisible walls, so this is a playable area. I think this is probably a little playable area. This is probably a very specific little zone. Maybe there's a sequence that takes place here. A narrative sequence where you're walking through the desert, but probably not a lot of gameplay that happens there. And then like maybe a desert little section. You go into a magical forest and have to escape, but it's very short. And then there's a trip to the final boss encounter that's in a lava level. So all told, it's not as crazy as this map makes it look. Like I think all of this is effectively just not there. It's just invisible walls and stuff. There might be a cutscene or something that plays out near there, but I think it's important to understand that just because the map looks really big does not mean the playable areas are going to be one-to-one. Like I I don't think that's what's going to happen. Still a sizable game, almost certainly, but not as big as I think people are probably expecting it to be. So if that took 20 hours or 15 plus 5 for the city or something, you might be able to get to like 40 or 50 for the whole game, but I would not expect this. And that's again, that's completionist levels. He said he did everything and saw everything in this area. Most people don't play games like that. Most players are going to do the main story, maybe a few side content or side quests, and then they're going to move on to another area. I think that's typically how most people play. And so I would not expect them to do it that differently. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a room in my basement refinished, and so one of the guys just sent me a text asking which type of flooring I want. Booyah.
Assume that there's going to be at least 4 to 5 zones in total based on what we're seeing here and the number of sections that have fairly detailed sketches to them, similar to the Dawnlands. But that is just a guess right now. Either way, if the first zone is any indication, this game could be pretty big, because again, I'm guessing if you're really thorough, like completionist style, you got like 15 to 20 hours of content just in that first zone. There's a lot there. Okay.
What I want to know, and maybe if you guys know from other preview videos you might have seen, did anybody make like a beeline? Does anyone say what it is if you're just doing main story stuff? Because if it's 15 hours, like this is the difference. If it's 15 hours completionist, doing everything, but it's like 90 minutes for a rushed mode, like just doing main story stuff, then that tells us what the spread is between side content and main content. But if it's like still 10 hours of main stuff and then there's like 5 hours of side quests, that gives you a different idea of the balance of all of it. Outer Worlds is like 10 hours if you rush it, I think. Yeah, Outer Worlds is, but my interpretation is that this is, I think they've said this is like a little bit bigger than that, but I could be wrong. They might have been saying that about, I think Outer Worlds 2 is supposed to be twice as big as Outer Worlds 1. It's the Veilguard template. Oh God.
Okay, so back to the Dawnlands. You have just arrived. You're at the docks. You meet the characters. You've got your companion. The main story quest has been laid out. You got some stuff to go investigate. What's next? Well, it's time to start doing the open zone exploration action RPG things. You're going to be looking for loot, talking to NPCs, and picking fights with the local bandits, lizards, skeletons, and spiders, all of which there's plenty of all around. This game is dense with points of interest and places to see. I mean, you are practically tripping into new POIs everywhere you walk. I counted 35 named areas in total in the Dawnlands alone. Now, I'm not going to walk you through each and every one, but I will highlight some of my favorites. After exploring the first major town, which I spent a good 30 to 60 minutes in, going around, picking up all my quests, interacting with the vendors, rooting in corners and in buildings, and going up scaffolding, looking for hidden treasure, which there was a lot of. After that, I then set out west of town and discovered this lighthouse. There were some notes outside that hinted at the thing being haunted. Scaling the scaffolding around its exterior rewarded me with a bunch of loot, including these unique move speed enhancing boots, and I found a treasure map that sketched out the location of some even more valuable loot. I later found that treasure, by the way, using the visual guide of the map marking its location, and I love when games do this. They give you a
Yeah, I will also say I freaking love this stuff. Was it Red Dead that had the quest line with all the sketches? Or am I thinking of a different game? They had like a whole quest line just with sketches. Was it the serial killer quest line? And like they also did the treasure maps. Yeah, Hogwarts also did it. There's a bunch of games that do this. And I think that any gameplay system or setup that that encourages you to interact with other gameplay elements is good. Like you should have ways to tie different things together. That's why I hate games that overly rely on like the mini map or on the quest markers and stuff, where it's just, oh yeah, we could do this. We could, or we could just go in here and like just put a little yellow diamond over top. And that'll tell players where to go. Right here, we put a little yellow diamond, and that will tell players that this is where the objective is. No, don't do that. This is way cooler. If you give me a map and then I have to go explore the level and find where this thing is, that's awesome. I love that. Screw the yellow diamond. You know, I'm so sick of game companies thinking people are too stupid to figure stuff like this out. This is not that complicated. People can figure this out. I love this kind of thing. This is cool.
Sketch of the surrounding landscape and landmarks, and then Xing the spot where the treasure can be found, and you just kind of got to figure it out as you're moving through the world. I figured it out. I found the treasure. Wasn't super hard, but again, I like when they do this instead of just placing the pin on your map. Leaving the lighthouse, following the coast to the north into the fractured shore area led me to Dehennigan's cottage. Now, I had already spoken to the owner of this building back in town. She told me that her house had been overrun by these Zorups, which are basically like these big lizard people, and she was right. They had set up camp all around the rock islands leading towards her home, with even more found inside. I cleared the cottage, but something didn't quite seem right with a painting on the wall depicting lizard people holding.
Dude, I'm such a toddler. I'm such a toddler. I saw this lizard sketch with like the legs. I understand this is the leg, and this is its other leg, and then this is a tail. But my brain saw it as leg. I was like, wow, they're just drawing that? What? I'm such a I'm 11 years old. I can't be trusted.
On the wall depicting
this.
lizard people holding hands and dancing with humans. Seems like there's something more to this, and there was in fact, but I won't spoil it. Fast forward, after a bit more exploration, managing around with loot and doing my inventory and hanging out and chatting with my companion, I then stumbled across this old fisherman's hut with a note inside warning us to avoid a nearby cave as something dangerous was lurking inside. So of course I immediately seek out that cave.
I kind of wish games would do this where they tell you like, don't go to this cave, it's haunted, you're gonna die, and then it's just like, if you go there you will die. Like, we told you, like, there is no cool boss there's no cool loot, like, no, it's just a level 999 enemy and you will die. Like, I kind of wish games would just troll players a little bit more with that stuff. I understand it would probably frustrate us, but I love the idea of just taking player expectations and like, it's players when we play games, like, we have certain things that we just expect, like, oh, if you tell me there's a monster there and I'm gonna surely die there, okay, that just means there's a boss there and there's gonna be cool loot. I like the idea of shaking up, and sometimes it's like, no, straight up, like, you're gonna die. Yeah, God of War, where you jump off the path, or Witcher 3: The Unseen Elder. Yeah, little things like that. I think it's so cool. I just love flipping it like that. Like with that mountain turtle boss in level 99 boss in Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, just little things like that to just take your expectation and flip it. Yeah, players will take it as a challenge. Absolutely, they will, where they'll hit that and they're like, oh, so and maybe you do give it incredible loot if they can do it. Just like the pants of godhood, and it just turns you into a god. You just permanently have 10x health or something, but you have to defeat this boss that is nigh impossible. And you just make it understood. They're like, yep, that's what it is. You know, that's what it is. I love that. Xenoblade with level 99 enemy in the starting area. They're like, you will die here. Come on.
Cave, finding one right around the corner, stepping inside of the ruinous caverns, I was then introduced to my very first dungeon. There's many of these scattered throughout the game, presumably. I have already found 3 in this first zone. This one was a cave system chock full of spiders. Traversing deeper inside eventually led me to my first real boss encounter against a rather large spider queen. This was a pretty tough fight, actually. I ended up dying during it in attempt number 2. The spider queen was dead, and I was rewarded with a new unique armor piece as a result, which I think I'm still
Spider
wearing.
got that Popeyes forearms. I mean, the other thing is, I don't think he says. Yeah, he doesn't say specifically how he previewed this, unless I just totally blanked out when he did explain it. But like, like typically they do these things through remote play, but he has 20 hours, which is a lot for a remote access thing. Did they just send him a preview build to play? Like that is a sign of confidence if that's true. That's wild if that's what it is. That's really, really cool.
Was rewarded with a
Look at those Popeye forearms on the spider, man.
Unique armor piece as a result, which I think I'm still wearing 15 plus hours later. There's also an old cemetery that's being ransacked by grave robbers. There's abandoned ruins full of booby traps, ghosts with some valuable treasure up top. There's a massive subterranean temple that's loaded with enemies, puzzles, bosses, a nefarious NPC who's got some ulterior motives, and a shrine to one of the old gods. And that is just 6 of the, count them, 35 named points of interest in the Dawnlands alone. Like I said, there's a lot here. You are practically tripping over interesting locations at every turn. And as you've probably noticed as well in the footage you've seen thus far, the game leans heavily into thoroughly exploring these places. There's stuff to find everywhere. While you're moving through the world, you're going to see in every corner these winding paths, ledges and scaffolding to climb, hidden rooms that you got to try to figure your way into. And all of these inevitably lead to something, some valuable loot or treasure chest or unique item. And they give you a ton of reasons to check in every corner and around every bit of this environment for that very reason. Just about everywhere you look, where you think there might be something, there's probably something, including behind quite a few waterfalls. Make sure you're checking back there. You can mantle onto most everything in the environment. There are a few exceptions, some buildings and some mountainous areas you can't, and then all around the parameter of the mountainous region on the edge of the zone, you can't go up that, but everything within it is pretty much free reign. The world is chock full of breakables, including many different contextual barriers that you can do something to bypass. You've got basic breakable objects like crate and barrels, which you'll sometimes find resources, currency, or consumables inside. But then you've got things like weak walls that can be blown open or smashed through with certain heavy hitting attacks or charges. There are webs and other organic type barriers that can be burned through. There are grates that can be frozen to weaken their integrity, and which then allows you to break them. You can freely swim in any of the bodies of water. Many times you're going to find resources, chest, or even hidden caves underneath some of these locations. You can even freeze water anywhere, which creates a temporary platform. You're going to find things like these rock formations out in the ocean that can only be accessed this way, and a lot of these formations have some loot. So you want to freeze, make your pad, jump up, collect the loot. There are special generators.
What is this? Gameplay systems that interact with the environment. It's unbelievable. I like this. This is all good.
That need to be struck with some form of electricity in order for you to activate them, often opening doors or secret areas. Yeah, lots of secrets, lots of things to discover, and a lot of focus on exploration, on rooting around the environment. Even though this isn't like one continent's worth of open world and it's more an open zone kind of game, there's so much here and there's so much exploration and things to find within that space, which is why I said it's like Skyrim vacuum sealed into a condensed package. That's how I felt while playing through this game. Now let's talk about combat. One of my most important things in any game that I play, I want the game to feel good when I'm engaging with enemies. I would say the combat in Avowed feels pretty darn good. If we're continuing to make comparisons to Skyrim, which I get, probably getting tired by now, it feels leagues better than that, like substantially better. I mostly played melee, going with this fighter build, primarily using a shield as well as a one-handed weapon, although I was starting to make use of ranged more often, using muskets and pistols later on into my session. Everything here has a nice sense of impact, good sounds, good animations, enemies responding to being struck. All around, I think the combat felt good. You've got basic attacks as well as heavy variations. You can block, dodge, and parry, and the whole combat dance revolves around balancing your attack cadence to manage a stamina meter that you don't want to overcommit because then you'll be drained. So it's all about dealing some damage, then avoiding enemy attacks by either blocking, dodging, or parrying, and then doing a counter, all while trying to make sure you do not deplete your stamina because that puts you out of commission waiting for its recovery. Enemies have some sort of a stagger bar as well. You build this up, and when it's full, any attack you perform will then give a big, heavy damage dealing combo. Crouching will put you into stealth, which allows you to perform sneak attacks from behind if you remain undetected. The game's got a built-in self-revive called Second Wind. Basically, you can use this once per fight as it's on a big cooldown, but it gives you a second opportunity. Your primary resource is this thing called Essence. It is spent whenever you cast special abilities or spells if you're playing playing like a caster class. They do have mages in this game. For me, my main spell that I was using this on was Charge. Essence can be refilled with consumables, but then also when you kill enemies, they'll drop these little small orbs that give you a small amount of essence as well. And also in combat, you have access to a radial menu. You can pull it up, it will pause the game, and then this lets you select certain abilities. You can consume potions or other consumables like food and essence restoring ones that give you buffs. There are throwables like grenades and different elemental ones. And then some of your companion abilities are in here as well, because yes,
it is crazy how it, like, the combat does just look like an overhauled, more modern version of Skyrim's combat. I'm sorry, I did him dirty with that freeze frame. But I mean, it is kind of crazy how they just take that formula, they turn the dials up a little bit. Other dials, like the total scope, they might turn down a tad. But like, sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes if it works, it works, and people just want you to refine what's there. I think game or studios like FromSoft or, oh god, the guys that do the Yakuza games, those guys, or Atlas with Persona/Metaphor, like, they show that you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. You can just take the formula you did last time, polish it up, refine it a little bit more, and people will still eat it up and love it, as long as you're making steps forward and progressing. You know, you just gotta RGG, thank you. As long as you're just progressing, that's all you need. And this just seems to be, you know, furthering of that idea that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, if people loved that fantasy adventure game focused on freedom and player agency, maybe just do that.
As mentioned, you do have a companion. The game basically gives you one right at the start after arriving at the docks in the first main town. His name is Kai. He's got a backstory and all that, but in terms of combat, he's got a few useful skills where he can engage with and stun enemies. He can apply burning debuffs and quite a few other things. Now, other than helping in combat, he's also going to chime in with little quips now and then. You're going to build a relationship over time. The game has a whole camping system where you can do some managing and progression stuff, but also talk with your companions. Now, I do assume that there's going to be other companions as well that you unlock later on in the game, but with all my time in the first zone, Kai was the only one that I ever came across. As you've seen in the footage, there's quite a variety of the typical fantasy enemies that you're going to be fighting. You're going to see bandits, you're going to see the Zorops, those lizard people. There are spiders, you got skeletons,
Whoa!
you got ghosts, you got
lizard people. Man, this preview is unhinged, man.
Got ogres and a variety of different bosses. I don't know exactly, I didn't keep tabs, but I want to say that I saw like 10 to 15 bosses in my time with the game. The party camp, as I mentioned, all throughout the world are these camping locations. They're designated areas, and it acts as a place for you to rest. Going there will restore your health, and you can use it to pass the time, sleeping through the night to restart at the daytime. You can also talk to your companions, having a little dialogue and building a relationship. And then there's also quite a few management and progression systems here. You've got a stash, which is storage for any spare items you don't want to carry around. The game does have encumbrance. It wasn't too oppressive, but I ran up against being fully encumbered a couple of times in my play session. There's a cauldron where you can go to craft food and make upgrade materials. You've got a workbench to upgrade your weapons and armor, increasing their stats as well as their rarity. And there's an
I want more upgrades of weapons in games like this. It drives me crazy in so many RPGs where you're more of like a slum, or more of a junk dealer, you know, where you just go and you find some garbage and then you sell that garbage to buy a good weapon. You use it for a little while and then you find a better weapon and you scrap that one, and then you sell those parts, you use those parts to craft a new sword that you scrap an hour later. Like, I personally like the way that like Sekiro will handle it, where you have your sword and you can upgrade, you can do things like that to enhance it. But fundamentally, like, you're not reinventing yourself every 20 minutes. I know some people love that. Some people love the inventory management side of it, the idea that they constantly are getting like the new sword that's just a little bit better. But even just like, you remember in The Witcher 3, the freaking shovel thing in Hearts of Stone? Shovel. I don't remember the full name of it. The Caretaker's Spade. This thing. This thing is so freaking cool. It's a secondary steel weapon that you take from the caretaker after you defeat him. You remember this dude without the face? This dude who's like digging the graves and stuff? Yeah, this guy. Remember him? And he gives you, well, he drops, he doesn't give it to you. To be clear, he didn't want to give it to you. But he drops the spade, and it is a really solid weapon. Like, upon landing a successful attack on an enemy, this weapon heals Geralt for 10% of the damage inflicted. Flashes of green energy accompany strikes. So not even kills. Other weapons have healing on kill, but they don't even have, like, this is a very good weapon. But if you move directly onto Hearts of Stone, it's just like, okay, well, I guess you gotta scrap it. And that drives me crazy. Like, I'd rather have something that I can continue to use. Yeah, you can't apply oils to it. I can kind of get that. That might break it too much. And it also can't be displayed in Corvo Bianco for some reason. I still don't know why. Even though, like, this is probably my favorite singular weapon in the entire game, you can't display it. It's really weird. It's really odd. But anyway, that's a separate pet peeve I have. But I love the idea of being able to actually take weapons and upgrade them long term.
And there's an enchanting system specifically for that unique yellow gear where you can use rare materials to enchant the item, adding either enhanced effects that it already has or additional effects, some variety in terms of customizing for your build. And then you've got this totem shrine. You find totems as you play. These are dedicated to the old gods, and activating the totems reward various passive buffs, which give you some just nice additional enhancements. Now, in terms of progression, this is an RPG, and there's quite a lot of it. You will level powering yourself up. You've got abilities to pick from. These are broken up into 4 different categories. There is Fighter, Ranger, Wizard, and then the Godlike abilities. Fighter is basically your melee and tank focus. Ranger is range weapons as well as stealth. The Wizard is your mage, and then the Godlike abilities you unlock no matter which class spec you decide to go with. These are mostly tied to the main story quest. You start off with Backstab as your first Godlike ability. The next one that I unlocked was this AoE damage and heal ability, and then I also got a passive HP boost as well. It looks like, based on what I see here, there's going to be 4 additional active and passive skills that you unlock later on. I should note that you can mix and match as you please from the 3 different class trees, however you like. For example, I started as fighter, but I eventually picked up a few skills in the ranger tree, mainly increasing my one-handed damage since I was using a lot of one-handed melee weapons. There are both active and passive skills in those trees, and each skill has multiple ranks you can increase. You unlock more of them as you progress every 5 levels. And then there's also a whole section for abilities that you unlock for your companion. Also, when you level up, you get character stat increases called attribute points. These consist of 6 categories. There is might, constitution, dexterity, perception, intellect, and resolve. You start out with a certain distribution of these based on whatever you picked during character creation, and then for every level you get 1 additional point that you can spend. Looks like there's some diminishing returns here which incentivize spreading them out. You can also find gear that will add additional attribute points as well besides what's in this panel. Speaking of gear, there's a lot of gear to find in this game. One of my favorite things, looking around, getting good gear, trying different builds based on the unique gear that I find. Massive amounts of variety here. In fact, I counted 15 different classes of weapons in the game, and there might be even more. That's just what I've found so far. These include muskets, axes, bows, daggers, great axes, grimoires, pistols, spears, wands, and there is more. In addition to the weapons, you've also got armor. There is a base armor, which basically consists of like your chest, shoulders, and legs. It's one piece just called armor. And then there is also a slot for gloves, a slot for boots, an amulet, and 2 ring slots. And then for all of the gear that you find, it's going to drop in different rarities and quality, with the most valuable gear being uniques, the yellow items that are of high value and also come with special bonuses. Here's some examples of some of the uniques that I was wearing with my character. I had Wayfarer's armor, which is a tanky piece, regenerates health when I'm below 20% and also adds 10% move speed. I had Gloves of the Strangler, which gave 10% crit chance and 20% bonus stealth damage. The Arc,
also just a great name. Gloves of the Strangler. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a matter of personal preference. If people like the ARPG side of it, with tons of loot, with different drops and different rolls on each of them, but these are cool.
Arcanist boots I found atop the tower, granted 5%.
And it seems like these are the ones he mentioned on the tower. I like the idea that you can like go explore a POI and it's not just crafting components and a little bit of currency as the reward for doing that. Like, okay, OJ's gloves, how dare you? Jesus Christ. But like it's actual like items that are worth retrieving and worth getting. You know, I think that's good to see.
Bonus healing and 10% move
Justify
speed.
the
I found the
exploration,
title
you know?
ring, which made it so that I would regenerate health whenever standing in water. The vindictive band, which gave critical hits, making them deal poison damage. My one-handed sword was last light of the day. Killing enemies with it would restore 3% of my health, and then hits also deal fire damage. And then my shield, wind and wave, added 10% move speed as well as giving me frost resist. And those are just some of the uniques that I was using for my build towards the end of my playtime. There were many more that I found. I want to say I found like 15 to 20 uniques in my time playing the game, but that's just the stuff there that I was wearing. Items are going to be dropping all over the place. You'll find them in chests. You will find them on corpses. You will find them on enemies that you kill. You're going to get a lot of different types of weapons. You'll see many stacks of like a one-handed common sword, and you can choose to either store those, sell them, or break them down for crafting resources. And all of that gear can be ranked up and enchanted as well, making it stronger, moving it through the tiers, increasing its quality and rarity. Okay, so that is the recap. Let's go on to my thoughts of the game thus far. In general, as I covered at the top, I really like what I've seen of Avowed. I'm thoroughly enjoying this game. The amount of detail packed into every corner of the world. I love the loot. I love finding yellow unique gear with the bonus stats. It's exciting every time I get a new piece. I think the combat feels solid. Like I said, melee combat in particular is leagues better than it was in Skyrim. Visuals of the game overall I find quite pleasant. I do like the fact that they went rather bold with their coloring. This is especially good looking when it comes to nighttime. Many of the plants in the environment have this bioluminescent glow, which just looks really cool. The game is also really polished from what I saw. In fact, I don't think I encountered a single major bug or glitch in my whole time of playing. I really like most of the character NPCs that I've come across, and again, that's like low priority for me, but what I saw was pretty good. The game seems like it's going to be pretty big if that first zone was any indication, depending on the number of...
Oh no. Usher's hand is here. Everyone, find your kids, find your wife, because Usher's grabbing everybody up here. It does seem like it's going to be massive, or at least bigger than we were expecting. I was kind of braced for it to be like a 15-20 hour game. He's saying he got through the first area and it took him 15-20 hours. That's a lot. That's a lot. Usher, no. Yeah. As long as it's not Diddy's. Dude, we haven't seen the other areas in the game. You just never know. I do think it looks significantly better than I think most of us were expecting and were braced for. Oh, why is this the most replayed part of the video? Now we got to get there. I wonder why that's the most replayed area. Hold on. Let's get there.
Zones that they have. We're looking at potentially many hours of exploration here, which I'm excited to see how that pans out at full release. Also, quite a lot of funny moments. Like, for example, one of my early companions, after coming up on shore shipwrecked, I jumped in the water. I was just looking for loot or something, and my companion was like, you're gonna go swimming after everything that's happened? Because yeah, my ship just crashed and I was washed ashore. But yeah, it is strange that I wanted to go back in the water, right? Maybe I wanted to rinse off. Or at one point I came up to a pyromancer who was tinkering with a spell and then proceeded to blow himself up.
Yes, they'll never stop me.
As for my...
Okay, that's funny. Okay, that's pretty good. Just we're gonna... Oh! Okay, that's good.
Blow himself up.
Yes, they'll never stop me.
As for my feedback or the thing...
That's good. That's funny. Okay, I'll give him that. That's good.
Things that I'm not loving so far. Probably one of the biggest ones is the UI, specifically the combat related UI, like enemy health bars and the damage pop-up numbers. They seem really out of place with the rest of the game. Like they seem out of place with the immersion and the environment and the world. And they...
Yeah, hopefully there's a toggle for the numbers at least, because the numbers are pretty jarring.
Even seem out of place with the rest of the UI. The combat UI, combat related UI, I got used to it, but it really stuck out to me initially as like, whoa, I don't think this looks good. It doesn't jive. Something wasn't clicking with me. I also don't love that as the main character, you have to have this fungal stuff on your face. It's part of the godlike attributes. Now you can hide it so that you don't actually see it on your character, but it's part of the narrative of you are a god touched, and other people notice that you're a god touched because you've got like basically a coral reef growing out of your face. You can't not have it. You have to have some variation of it. You can just hide it so that you don't see it. But yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. Performance got
That I remember that fungal stuff being discussed. It seems like they added a toggle to hide it, which is, I think, a good move. Because I was going to say, I don't, like, they showed it in one of those previews, and it was like this big monstrosity, made you look like a clicker from The Last of Us. And it was like, okay, I get it's tied to the story, but it just looks bad. But I guess they took that feedback and added a toggle so you can hide it. That's nice. That's a good way to deal with that criticism.
Gotta say, was a bit all over the place. This is also probably one of the bigger negatives. The first day of playing, it was rather choppy. The frame rates they stayed high. Like, I think I was still hovering between 90 and 120, but it was fluctuating a lot. And that's just as bad as being like a low. It's not as bad as fluctuating at a low frame rate. Like, it'd be way worse if it was like going into the 20 FPS, right? But it stayed high, but it was really, really fluctuating. I didn't love that. Now, on the second day, I tried enabling DLSS, and that basically fixed the issue. It was pretty smooth from there on out, but it would be preferable if we could play without DLSS enabled. So hopefully they work on performance coming up to release. I'll also add that as much as I really enjoy exploring in the play space, the world does feel a little static. It is densely packed with points of interest, but it's also kind of light on enemies. There will be some locations, some of the points of interest, and specifically the dungeons, will have rather large groups, and there are some enemy camps that are pretty highly dense in number of enemies, but the spaces in between and a lot of the smaller points of interest are pretty much empty. I would love to see more enemy density, even if it was just an option. Like, maybe the higher difficulty increases the number of enemies. Speaking of which, there are difficulties. I played on hard. There was one more difficulty right above that. Maybe I'll try that at release. And another note in the dislikes or the cons would be that the game is pretty darn handholdy. The puzzles have all been very easy. The traversal locations are quite obvious. Any climbable area will either have ropes hanging from it or have some sort of paint on them. Even the loot and treasure is pretty easy to find because it all makes this kind of glittery, glistening sound, so you really can't miss the fact that there's loot hidden somewhere. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get to it. And even all the objectives and the things that you can pick up, they're all glowing. Now, I think some of the stuff you can...
So, we've heard this from multiple previews, is that it's really hand-holdy. Like, the rope hanging from vaultable things, like, I understand it. I prefer rope over, like, the gigantic neon yellow paint, personally. Like, I'd rather the rope than that, but this is a weird trend in the gaming industry to just assume players are really, really stupid, and I don't know why it's a thing. I think it's done in the pursuit of accessibility, which is fine. Like, I'm all down for making more games more playable for more people, but I think the way you should do it is just give a toggle. Give a damn toggle. They did that with frickin' like, even Indiana Jones. When you're doing a puzzle, if you need a clue, you take a picture of the puzzle and then it gives you a little clue if you want it. Easy fix. Do it that way. If players need the hint or need help, offer it, have the option, but don't build it in by default. Like, the companion spoiling puzzles or spoiling a cool thing that's hidden in the environment before you've seen it. Like, that stuff sucks.
Can turn off in the settings, so it would make it less handholdy if you wanted to be more immersed in the world and not have highlighted objects. Or I don't know if you can disable the treasures making a glistening sound, but I just wanted to point out there isn't much brain power required for exploring the space or for finding secrets, but there are still secrets and exploration to be had. It's just pretty straightforward, if that makes any sense. But even with those negatives accounted for, overall, man, I really like Avowed. Like, I am so pumped. Yes, it's one of my most anticipated games now of 2025 after just playing this intro. Loved what I saw, loved the open world, loved the combat, loved the exploration, loved the character building, loved the points of interest, loved it as an RPG. Just so much I loved across the board. I think this game is great, and I cannot wait for its full release. Really keen on this. All right, well, that about does it for my
Well, sweet. Well done, Mr. Force Gaming. Again, go give him a sub. He puts out tons of good stuff. But there's some common threads with a lot of the critiques that were brought up that we've heard in others. Like, again, the one from Destin through IGN, bringing up stuff like the issues with hand-holding stuff, companions solving puzzles for you ahead of time, the puzzles not being very difficult to begin with. All of that stuff is just really frustrating personally for me. I would prefer it if they treated us like we were smart and they gave options for people who needed a little extra help. But it's this new trend in gaming where everybody just assumes everybody needs like a little bit of help because puzzles are hard. It's like, no, let me think about it. It's one of the things, like, if a puzzle doesn't require thought to solve, it's not a puzzle. Okay. Puzzles should make you think. Puzzles should give you some pause. And if it's a good puzzle, it probably is one where you're going to work on it and then go, okay, let's think about this. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's try that. That's what a puzzle is, okay? Like the stupid thing where it's like, oh, you pull this lever and then you pull this lever and then you see this box move and you push the box and then you pull the lever. That's not a puzzle. That's tedium. That's something else. That's busy work. It's not a puzzle. So, but granted, again, that's just a personal frustration of mine with a lot of these modern games. But with all of this said, going back to what we initially were saying, which was, where does Avowed fit into the lineup in February? Even after this preview, I think I think my stance is still in the same spot. I personally feel that this doesn't, even if it's as good as Forrest is suggesting from his preview, which it could end up being even better than his preview, could end up being worse, but I think it still probably doesn't beat out Kingdom Come. I think for better or worse, a lot more media will be on AC Shadows. I just think it's going to be much harder for them to compete with just the volume of marketing and discourse around that game. Because again, I mean, to a certain extent, there's no such thing as bad press, which I don't personally think is true. In the context of trying to get your brand out there, sure, I guess. But I think for Shadows, there will be many videos and many streams about how good it is, and many about how bad it is, and many about how woke it is, or whatever else. And I don't see Avowed breaking through that wave of marketing around those games with Shadows and with Monster Hunter on the way. And so I think it's going to be really tough. The best thing for Avowed to do would be to delay by like 2 weeks. If they delayed by 2 weeks, I think they'd be set. Because personally, I'm going to just be real with you. I think I'm probably playing Kingdom Come for a solid 2 weeks and then jumping into Shadows for 2 weeks. And then Monster Hunter for a week and a half, 2 weeks, play Split Fiction real quick, and then go back to Monster Hunter. And then they probably launch the Switch 2. Like, realistically, even if Avowed is pretty good, I probably don't get to it until like July or August. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Whereas if they delayed it into late March, I think it could actually stand a chance. But it's going to be tricky, I think, for them to thread that needle where they are right now. Perhaps Microsoft doesn't care, though. And that's one thing Jor kind of alluded to on our podcast last week, which was just that, like, for Xbox, it's more about having the game release in this time period, having a game release during this time period, because then at least they can be like, see, your subscription is justified. Please don't cancel. And then they just move on to the next release in April and the next release in May. For them, they don't care that much about this specific game blowing up and having the best possible chance. Because let's be real, they'll launch it on Game Pass. It'll be up there for a few months. They're going to bring it to PlayStation 5 in 6 months, and then they're just going to bounce it forward from there. Avowed will be a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Well, I guess let's do this now. Let's do this. I'm going to do a poll. And I want to know what your guess is for the Metacritic. Avowed prediction. Whoop. Okay. Can I do... No, I can't. Okay, we're going to do 90 to 100. We'll do 81 to, well, I'll do 85 to 89, and then I'll do 80 to 84, and then I'll do 74 to 79. Let me do 75. There we go. And then let's do worse than 60. Make sense? Makes sense. Create poll. Copy the link. I'll put it in the chats. Is this audience or reviewers? This is the Metacritic. This is, what is the Metacritic prediction? What are we expecting the final review score aggregator Metacritic to put it at? My personal guess, I think it might land at like 80 to 81, according to this preview. Might drop lower, but 80 to 81, I think, would be a solid score. It's giving me that like B- vibe, where I'm guessing the puzzles are going to be really stupid. I think the game's narrative is probably gonna get really rushed towards the end. I'm guessing the later levels are nowhere near as dense. I'm guessing they're going to be much thinner. All of that is fine for the type of game this is, but I think if people are expecting it to maintain the same density and quality level as early in the game, it probably starts to thin out. Maybe it blows us away and it ends up being like that 95, 96 Metacritic score. I think we'd all be surprised by that, but that would be great if they could achieve that. But it looks like you guys are in the similar vein. B-, the vast majority, about 75% of you guys, well, about 70%, are guessing that this lands somewhere between 84 and 75. About 70% of you. If we also go all the way down to 70, it's a solid like 80% of you guys think it's between 84 and 70. Which, to be clear, that's not a bad Metacritic score. Like, that is still considered good. You know, probably, especially on Game Pass, probably still worth downloading. But is that enough to beat out like Kingdom Come or Monster Hunter? Personally, I don't think so. Again, best thing for Avowed would be like a 2-week delay, 2-3 week delay. Do that. Maybe not 2, because then you're just going to be right up next to Monster Hunter. So let's say 3 to 4 week delay. Do that. I think you'll be much happier. You'll have your own breathing room. People can play it, have a good time. But I swear to God, if you launch right next to some of these other behemoths, it will be overshadowed hardcore. But how does it fare against Fable? I feel like Fable will just cancel this game out altogether. No, I think they are fundamentally different games. Like Fable, I take as being much more of like an adventure, like a cinematic adventure game, not like a serious attempt at an RPG. I think it'll be between 75 and 79 just because it looks mediocre and cookie cutter as hell. I would guess, like, I think, again, this is a really good game for a Game Pass, because I think a lot of people would normally be like, but being on Game Pass, like, I'm going to download it and try it, even if the reviews are like C+ or whatever, you know? Oh, quick little clip. This is probably a Luke Stevens clip, not even a full segment, but look at this. I saw people sharing this video and being like, see, online discourse is not reality. Okay, I'm gonna show you something kind of funny about this. This has to do with Intergalactic. Let me see I need the other clip. Yeah, here. This has to do with Intergalactic, okay? Here. The Game Awards reaction to Naughty Dog's new game. So some people shared this video as an example of like, look, the internet isn't real. Actual game journalists and stuff are super excited about it, whatever. Watch this, okay? Then I'm going to show you why maybe this doesn't tell you everything you need to know. Am I gonna get copyright struck for this? Probably. All the cheering! Yay, everybody's so excited. Screams and hollers, okay? Well, people are like, see, people are super excited for it. Well, the funny thing is, and again, it's totally fine to be excited for Intergalactic. I don't want to like bash on any of that. I think it personally, I think it was just not a very good trailer for communicating to players what it's going to be. But I think, I think this particular notion is a little silly because guess who, guess who went to the Game Awards? Like the whole team. Naughty Dog rolled deep to the Game Awards. So dope to have so many dogs in attendance for this moment. Like everybody from Naughty Dog went to the studio. It's the hair. It's not a full hair like head dent. I probably do have a head dent if you were to shave me, but I want to be clear. It's just a hair, probably not. But yeah, it was funny that people were like, see, actual like game journalists are actually super giddy and stuff. And it's like, they might be, but also like the entire studio went. So it's probably like most of this chunk and frame is probably just the studio in attendance. You know, it's pretty crazy. It's wild to see like the entire company went to the Game Awards. But I think that this was probably part of the deal with Jeff Keighley. Like, hey, we'll give you our trailer to reveal, but you got to get our whole team in there, and we have to be the last game shown. Even though I feel like The Witcher 4 was a much bigger deal, a much bigger reveal, it is still funny. Lol, half the audience. It is kind of funny. Yeah. Let's see. Brandon Reyes, thank you for the 10. Started Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this month because I missed it in February. I was enjoying the game up until chapter 12 to 14. The side quests sucked. So many mini games and the temple was just repetitive. I'm worried about the third one now. I mean, they're worried about the third one now too. The Rebirth did not outperform the first one, which kind of like, of course it didn't, you know, like people were not going to play the second part of a trilogy remake if they didn't play the first one. So the number of people playing the second part of the remake trilogy was always going to be less than the people who played the first part. And the third one is going to be less than the second one because nobody's going to jump into act 3 of a story if they don't know act 1 and act 2. So like that whole idea of doing a trilogy remake of one game was just a terrible idea. Like it was just stupid. I don't know why they thought that was a great idea, but when all 3 parts are out and they can sell it as one package, that'll be much more compelling, but it just on its face doesn't really make a lot of sense. PS5 exclusive was not good. That's the other thing, like bringing it to PC will certainly help, but also like on Xbox, there's some Final Fantasy fans, but like most Final Fantasy fans for the last 10, 15, 20 years have moved to PlayStation, I would think. So, yeah, bald. Anyway. Yeah, I wouldn't play it if it was all 3 parts at once and was 3 hours long, 300 hours long. Yeah, if it's 300 hours long, then yeah, I think it's just they thought that they could take the one big piece of pie or one pie. Whoop. And they take the one pie, which was the original game. They split it into 3 parts and then they make 3 games, you know, 1, 2, and 3, which, okay, at first you're like, okay, well, that's fine. But the thing is, like, the number of people, if this is our graph, the number of people that played the first part 1, the number of people who play part 2 is going to be lower. Maybe not by much, but it's going to be less because nobody's playing the middle of a remake trilogy if they don't know what happened in the first one. So that's going to be less. And for the third part, it's going to be less because, again, nobody's jumping into part 3 without knowledge of part 1, part 2. Yeah, maybe they watch a video recap, but I think the number of people who would be willing to do that is pretty few. And this is borne out in the sales data. I mean, this is not, I'm not speculating. Like, we know that it didn't sell as well. So Square Enix is a little panicked because they have another massive, massive game in part 3, and they're like, yeah, way lower retention. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I do know that the number was like a noticeably lower than they wanted it to be. But it also is not really surprising. I'm like, yeah, it just makes sense when you think about it for 2 seconds. Okay. In 5 years, the trilogy will be sold as one package and it'll do great. I mean, but even that, like, you say in 5 years, it'll be sold as one package. So they put these 3 pieces of the pie together again. So they take these 3 things and put them together, and then they sell it as one complete package with all of it. Okay. All these people, the most interested people, already bought it. They bought this sliver in part 1. They bought part 2 if they were retained, and they bought part 3, presumably. I don't think those people are going to buy it again. They already played through the remake. They already bought it. Like, why would they just give you even more money for that? And part of this is that these budgets were greenlit, assuming people would be buying each of these at like $60, $70, $70. So they thought they were going to make like a solid $200 off each player for this trilogy. But I think repackaged, they're not going to sell it for $200 a copy. They're going to repackage it and then have to sell the remaster, whatever collection, for $70. And I mean, that's close to 70% off, or 66% off rather. Like, either way, this did not go the way they wanted it to go. Like, either way, it's rough. Rebirth deserved Game of the Year, however. I mean, Rebirth was very, very good. I personally think Metaphor deserved Game of the Year the most because I love Metaphor, but I also understand why they gave it to Astrobot. I just personally don't think Astrobot, the way one person phrased it, I can't remember who said it, but one person phrased it as Game of the Year typically should go to the game that helps move the industry forward. And they were like, I don't feel that Astrobot moved the industry forward at all. And I was like, actually, like, I kind of see what you mean. It's a good game without a doubt, but did it actually move the industry forward? Like, I don't actually know. I think it's solid, but it's like, it's just, you know, nothing's really going to change. Neither did Metaphor. I mean, I think Metaphor did not have the mass market appeal as like compared to some of the other games like Black Myth Wukong, which demonstrably had mass market appeal. Even Elden Ring, Shadow of the Air Tree had mass market appeal. So I think you could say that Metaphor didn't break into that mainstream in the same way. So to a certain extent, it wasn't going to have the same impact on the industry as well. I think it will have long-lasting effects on other JRPGs and games of similar styles, but I do think it's perhaps fair to say that Metaphor won't have outsized influence on other games in the same way that I think Astrobot doesn't like change how people make games. Like The Witcher 3, when that came out and was so successful, that changed how other developers made games, and it's quantifiable and like verifiable. We know from like interviews that they changed the trajectory of like the Assassin's Creed franchise because they were inspired by The Witcher 3. Like, that game changed things. Same with games like Elden Ring, same with games like Red Dead, same with many, many games. But I don't think like Astrobot did that. Black Myth, I do think probably had a major impact on the industry, because I think it really showed like an unknown studio could just break out and have a smash hit like this, and also overcome the difficulties of dealing with IGN trying to destroy you. And in a lot of ways that was very impressive, even if it wasn't on paper like the best game, maybe on a mechanical level. But that's just why the definition of game of the year matters. Is it the most influential game, or is it the most like significant game? Yeah, it's just, it kind of matters how you define it, where the standards are. Uh-oh. Another clip. Here we go. These two cutscenes are 14 years apart from cinematic series gaming.
You can either tell me what your boss is planning, or you can stay in there.
Soon laptilota. Moguta tata mapunki dunko.
You again. If you're still looking for Haas, I haven't seen him.
Actually, I'm here for you. I heard you're the best shot on the planet.
Oh, and you want to be second best. Now is not a good time. The Huts are coming, and I need to get ready.
Sounds like my grandma.
Coming? You mean right now?
Could be any time. I caught one of their scouts, but he's not talking.
Jiba jama grandio sa urda du tonga.
Who's Erda?
Erdatar.
Erdatar. Sorry, very serious. It's a serious thing.
Hut underboss. We used to work together.
Prier uba dopa miki he's nolia chapata.
I just took what I was owed. But now, a bunch of innocents are being dragged into it.
So, take the help. I'm a pretty good shot, you know.
Trust me, Kay. You don't want to mess with Erda. The man fights like a wild massive.
I fought a Rancor. Massives are nothing.
All right. If you're set on it, there's no sense wasting time. Need to get those barricades up, and then we'll see about target practice.
Venta yoku. Jama achuta ta urda che che.
I will say this. I think, that some people don't understand the difference between Ubisoft's studios and engines. This was made by Ubisoft Massive, and with their engine, that was the same engine they used on Avatar. For them, it's a tool set they're familiar with, but I believe it's the same thing. Snowdrop, I want to say. But it's the same engine that they've used, I believe, for the Division games and all those. So it's specialized for that. Weak points, facial animations and cutscenes, 1000%. And I think it's important to understand that there's another engine called Anvil. And yeah, Frostbite is the DICE one. That's the one from EA. Yeah. But there's another engine that Ubisoft uses called Anvil that has had major overhauls done for AC Shadows specifically that we still have not really seen in terms of those improvements. So I think if you're looking at Shadows versus Outlaws is going to be like night and day in terms of production quality. Now, you can't change the writing. Well, you can technically change writing with like better writers, but the writing is a separate issue. But when we're looking at this and we are looking at like how bad the lip syncing is and the weird movements and stuff like that, that's something that Shadow should have significantly improved. But when it comes to writing, that remains to be seen. But let's see the other cutscene from 14 years before. Also in a jail. Also cowboy vibes.
Excuse me.
Hey, you got a visitor.
Shut up, you. Now, what you want?
My name's John Marston. You wanted to speak to me.
I did.
Apparently so.
Why?
Wow.
I guess because we're both in the business of the law.
You that fella from the train company?
No, I'm from Fort Mercer.
Fort Mercer? You them one of them Williamson boys.
Calm down.
Go on, shoot him, mister. Shoot him.
Come on, what, you getting kicked with me, boy?
What's going on here?
I got me one of them Williamson boys.
I got me one of them idiots who give marshals a bad name.
Jonah, put your gun down. You must be the man from Blackwater.
Yes, sir. Listen, that dog ain't too bright, but he seems loyal.
Jonah, get out of here for a minute.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson, sir. And you. Oh, I done seen enough of your hide around here, friend.
I think there's some school children down the way you can go and frighten.
Oh, hardy fucking har.
What are you doing here, Mr. Marston?
Dude, it's just... makes me want to play Red Dead again. You know, I put it on my RG Ally, just like for this trip, because it just looks good. It looks good. I love it. Oh man, graphics is not a substitute for good writing and cinematography. Well, and it's the thing about Star Wars Outlaw is that I don't think Ubisoft really appreciated when they greenlit the project was just that there are specializations. Like the team that makes The Division, it should not surprise anybody. They're not as specialized in like narrative open world games. Like making a compelling narrative for a game and having cutscenes that play well and having the performances that play well. Like all of this has to tie together really, really seamlessly. And it takes a certain skill set. It takes a certain specialization that, like, Massive is a very capable studio, but that's not what they are specialized in. That's not what they do. And after this, like, they finished Star Wars Outlaws and they moved right on to The Division 3, what they are like really good at, what their specialization is. Shocker, right? And I'm sure The Division 3 will be really impressive because it doesn't really need to focus on intense cinematics or that type of thing to stand out. And I just think that there was this weird, I guess, this shift in the industry where a lot of studios thought that they could just use the same studios that made these other games and just move them into like other genres of games. And it's just not true. Like you can't have the looter shooter style, you know, live service studio pump out a good single player narrative game, and you can't have the single player studio pump out a good live service game. These studios are different, the specializations are different, and the talent sets are different. It's just, you know, maybe it's executives that just don't understand. They think that, well, you're a game designer, you can make games, so make one that's live service and make one that's single player. Like they just, or I guess multiplayer live service versus single player, because you could technically have live service single player games, which Valhalla kind of was. But anyway, you can if given enough time with the right directors. Well, but the other piece of it too is that you need the team members. Like if you're going to go multiplayer live service, that means major reworkings of engines if the engine wasn't built for multiplayer stuff. Like there was just the stories of how they had to rework the creation engine to be used for Fallout 76. The engine was not built for multiple players. It just wasn't. Like it was not built in a way where they anticipated that, because it was built for one player character, and then you create like a little bubble around them. And then you have the map more generally that the player navigates through, but you load stuff in the bubble. Other stuff out here, you can kind of keep away from the player and unload. You don't need to stress about it. You don't need to do simulation stuff out there. Don't worry about it. Just worry about what's in the bubble. But when they want to do a multiplayer live service game, now they have more players. And the engine doesn't know how to handle that. There was a bunch of code in the engine that were specifically referred to like player. So it's like if the engine needs to check for like objectives, for example, you take on a quest and the quest says, go here. And when you're looking at the minimap or the compass, it says player position, player dot position at these coordinates, and then that puts it on the map. Well, the engine was not built for multiple players. It doesn't have player 1, player 2, player 3, or player underscore ID, like with their specific player character ID. They don't have any of that stuff written into the code. So they had to go in and manually rewrite all of that code because the engine just wasn't built to ever consider another player. So there were things that wouldn't work. Everybody would have the exact same objectives pop up if one player took on a quest line. Like they had to rewrite everything. So it's not as simple, even just from the engine side, to just take this and make a live service game. And the only way you get that is if executives that don't know what they're doing are greenlighting projects. And the other piece of it beyond just the technical side is the talent set is different. Players, or rather designers that are really good at making games for online for players to play for years to come with grinding out loot or with seasonal updates and stuff, that is a different talent set than a game that single player gamers will like. So if you want to shift your single player studio into a live service studio, a multiplayer live service studio, you're probably going to lose some of those single player artists and designers who don't want to make a multiplayer game, which is what happened at Arcane Austin with Redfall. They all left. And then, they hire more people for the live service side of it. But then they're like, oh, that didn't work out too well. So let's go and try to make a single player game again. But all those original guys left. So now you're having live service designers and developers work on a single player game, and that also doesn't go too well. So it just spins and spins and flushes down the toilet eventually. But anyway, here's the deal, fam. Here's the deal. Etched Zen, thank you for the sub with Prime. Mo Hafo, thank you also for the sub with Prime. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, Crusader Nella thank you for the bits about Valhalla. Thank you guys for that. Let me catch up on these real quick. Tyler, thank you for that super chat. Those HUD colors tickle my brain in a negative way. Feel you there. Edgar, thank you for the 10. Everyone is going to have to rip the band-aid off. Bethesda's cooked if they continue to use Creation Engine IMO. Everything goes through Todd. I don't see that changing. I think he's going to use Creation Engine at least through Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. After that, who knows? By that point, I think the industry will be so different. It's not even going to be about that. We're talking 2035. I consoles may not be even in the discussion. It might just all be cloud gaming crap. The industry will be very, very different in 10, 11 years. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think they're changing it. And thank you for the 10, very generous. Ka, thank you for the 5. Can I add one more criticism to RPG atomization? I hate the amount of uniques. It feels like a bigger stat stick than a build changer. I miss that. Yeah, I agree. Special things should be really special. I agree. Let's see. Brandon, also thank you for the 10. Yeah, we read that one earlier. But yeah, thank you again for the 10. Creation Engine with an AI filter. Yeah, dude. Don't put it past him. Don't put it past him. So, fam, here's where we're at. I leave for vacation in a couple days. Okay? It's a big thing. I still plan on streaming while I'm there. It just depends on the internet. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be like I've done on other trips where I record stuff and upload that separately, and then, you know, we do live stream clips and stuff because Jacob and Trevor will still be, you know, working. They'll probably be taking some time off because there won't be a lot to do, but they will still be able to work. So we'll still have content going up, but we'll be doing that. Sorry the volume was so low, Iroxy. Thank you for 14 months. Have a good vacation, Luke. Can't wait for the Witcher video to come out. Yeah, no, I'm excited too. Jacob is putting finishing touches on it, and we'll have that up for members and stuff early here in just a matter of well, I won't say anything because I have to check with him, but the goal has been for a long time before the end of the year. It'll be up for members. So you guys will get that very soon. But yeah, I have stuff planned for while we're out there. I will still stream. Content will still go up, but it'll definitely be a little bit slower than normal in anticipation for the mad rush that's going to start in January, which will be pure craziness and very, very hectic. So just be ready for that. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Having said that, though, I just want to say thank you guys for the amazing year, for the amazing 12, 14, 16, 18 months that we've had. It's been absolutely crazy. This next 12 months is going to be absolutely crazy as well. 2025 is going to be probably the biggest year in gaming in the last decade. It's going to blow our minds, I think. I've heard rumblings of some of the stuff that's coming that hasn't been announced yet. And like, if you thought the year was crazy already, just wait. Like, this will be nonstop insanity. So just buckle up. And prepare your wallets because there's going to be a lot, very expensive stuff. So we'll get there. Yeah, come to Germany and do your French accent that sounds German. Yeah, I'll fit right in. Been watching you since your AC Unity and Witcher 3 critique. Keep up the amazing work, man. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. It's very generous of you. And again, thank you, Etchzen, for the sub with Prime. Yeah, it's been a long ride, but we're just getting going. 2025 is going to be crazy. Bear with us while we prepare for the new year and kind of take a little bit of a breather. Main channel will still have a video. I think it might have more videos up in the next 2 weeks than we had in the last 2 weeks. So you might actually have more content on the main channel, especially considering the 3-hour runtime of the Witcher video. And as for Luke Siemens Live and Luke Siemens Clips, it'll be a little bit slower just because I won't be able to stream anywhere near as much, but we'll still have some video content up for you guys, okay? You guys are amazing. We'll be back next year, rocking and rolling. And next time I stream, it will probably be from the Bahamas. So buckle up for that. It's going to be good. Maybe we'll finally get that hot tub stream. I don't actually know if they have hot tubs where we're staying. Maybe an ocean stream? Is that as sexy as a hot tub? I don't know if that's more or less sexy. We'll figure it out. Either way, it's going to be sexy. Much love, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful new year. I love you all desperately. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Buckle up. New video going up on the main channel here in just a little bit, okay? I'll see you guys soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.